Right. Good evening, Placerville. Welcome to the City Council meeting. It is 5:17. I will call this meeting to order. I thank you for your patience. We had a closed session that went over. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please, Regina.
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Vice Mayor Saragosa?
Here.
Councilmember Borelli?
Here.
Councilmember No?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 3, ceremonial matters, we have none. Item 4, closed session report with City Attorney Ibrahimi.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. The council did meet in closed session today on items 1, 3, and 4. The council provided direction to staff. On item 2, the council unanimously directed staff to settle with the claimant.
All right, thank you. Item 5, adoption of the agenda.
Move for adoption.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Vice Mayor Saragosa?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 6, announcements, presentations to the public, and 6.1 is a presentation from Mark Acuna and the Placerville Fire Safe Council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Give me just 1 minute here. I'm going to bring in Mark Acuna for you. Are you there? You should be able to unmute yourself also, Mark. There you go.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you, Cleve.
Mark, quick question. Did you want me to bring in David Zielinski also, or?
Yes, please. Yeah, he's our divine leader. We have to have him.
Just 1 second, I will do that. All right, David should be available also now. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you.
There he is. Hi, David.
Always
Hi.
smiling.
Hi, Mark.
Inside out and backwards.
All right. Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me congratulate Mayor Taylor and Vice Mayor Saragosa on their terms in year 2022. And it's my pleasure to be here this evening and good evening to the rest of the council and the distinguished department heads that are assembled here once again on a Zoom meeting. I appreciate the time that the council has given us on this item. It's one that is of extreme importance to the citizens of Placerville. And it is through the dedication of David Zielinski, who really was the founder. It was his continued insistence that Placerville form a fire safe council, that we are where we are now, I'd say some 3 years later, and then preparing what we hope, or what we are calling, our first annual Placerville Wildfire Awareness Event. I think you're all familiar with some of the details, but it will be held on March 19th at Town Hall. It will be an indoor and outdoor event, open to the public from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. During that time, we have a number of agencies and organizations that have stepped forward and will be presenting during the day. Are there any questions to this point? All right, thank you. Moving on, let me just highlight quickly those agencies that we've had just a wonderful response from. Of course, the first one was the Placerville Police Department, and they are going to be on hand during the day. showcasing the new incident command vehicles that are now a part of our normal street patrols and will allow the Placerville Police Department to talk directly during major emergencies to all the mutual aid organizations that we count on. Something that Chief Wren has been instrumental in bringing forward since the Caldor fire, and we're looking forward to having him roll that out. Also presenting during the day will be El Dorado County Fire and Chief Tim Cordero. They have graciously will be providing one of their latest wildfire units for display, and will also be presenting during the day, giving an update on their home hardening programs, the recommendations they have, and also some update on the lessons learned from the mutual aid and the success from the Caldor fire. So again, thanks to both of those chiefs. They will be doing right now we have a presentations planned tentatively for morning and afternoon. They'll both be taking turns doing a short presentation to the public. Rounding out the big agencies, CAL FIRE has graciously will be participating. They will have displays both for adults and children outlining wildfire safety, home hardening, etc. And I understand that their new CAL FIRE mascot, Captain Cal, will be appearing during the event. So that's great for our younger citizens. And to round it out, the U.S. Forest Service El Dorado National Forest has agreed to participate. They will also bring one of their latest units down for display. And I understand that the infamous Smokey the Bear will actually be present during portions of the day at Town Hall. And again, all these agencies are providing age-appropriate material. So there will be plenty of coloring books and crayons and so on to keep the entire family entertained as they go from table to table. The last sponsor or major organization would be PG&E. They are anxious to come forward and they'll have a display table, and they'll also be outlining their current efforts with vegetation management. And I think we can all say that if there's a street, there's probably a tree crew on it trimming it in Placerville right now. So be interesting to see what their information that they will be providing again in March. We have again, this is an indoor and outdoor event. So all the agencies I just talked about will have displays and appropriate literature for everybody. We'll have plenty of fire engines and police equipment on display outside in the newly paved parking lot. I walked the site today, and there's a great opportunity there to lay this out nicely so that everybody can take their time and enjoy the different pieces of equipment. Chief Cordero has also assured us that as their schedule allows, the crew at Station 25 will be stopping by during the day and visiting. So that will allow a paramedic unit to be on display, hopefully more than, hopefully it'll be available that day. So we appreciate that effort also from Station 25. So rounding this out in the various organizations, of course, the Placerville Fire Safe Council will have a table outlining our current efforts. The El Dorado County Fire Safe Council, which is the huge umbrella organization for all fire councils, they will be in attendance. Also, the Native Plant Society, they will have an outdoor display. So we're looking forward to seeing them as far as the native plant fire resistant landscaping. We will also have some home hardening displays inside. The El Dorado Amateur Radio Club will be in attendance. I think if the weather permits, we'll have them outside. They're a 2-table display. They're fully functional, and they will probably be able to give demonstrations similar to showing the services that they provided for the Caldor fire. So rounding this out, I should also mention that we've just earlier this week were contacted by Tribal Fire, and they have a fully certified fire crew, hand crew, that they need to keep certified. And they have offered to come forward to help our seniors in having that crew go to work, helping the senior as well as keeping the crew skilled and ready to go. So that was just something that David Zielinski was instrumental in just a day or two ago. We felt it was important for resources to be available beyond what I call the volunteer groups. And we have reached out to 3 local suppliers, Placerville Hardware, Camino Power Tool, and Missouri Flat True Value. They have all graciously agreed to participate, and they will either be sponsoring or have booths at this display, at the event. Yeah, we felt that they provide a well-rounded and a well-established businesses that have all of the various equipment and knowledge to help all of our citizens get the tree trimmed or get their home hardening equipment. So are there any questions at this point? I need a drink.
So you said the tribal fire was willing to help seniors. How would people get in touch with or apply for that service?
David?
Mark, should I take it? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Jackie, if you can send them to me and then I'll try and connect them with the appropriate people at Tribal Fire. I think, I know Cleve and Dave and Patty have my email. Maybe all of you do by now. And the idea is to do it for free. They just want to do some landscape hardening, appropriate vegetation mitigation as a service while it's not fire season, and keep the crew busy. And so they have a heart for elders is the way I would say it.
Thank you, David.
That is just great news. That is
Yeah.
just really great news, because there's certainly a lot of folks in need of help. So, and to
Oh,
have,
Patty, I've asked Ernie Laurie to get to me all the people that we weren't able to serve last year through Friends of Seniors. But if any of you just help me remember, I can reach out to Kathy Lishman too. If she has any, whoever's got a list, we need to get those 2 tribal fires so they don't think we're ignoring them. So,
Right. Kathy would probably be great to contact. So,
yeah.
Other questions? Okay, well, again, the fire, the council fire coming from, tribal fire, that was just a recent event. So there's as we're making these contacts, we're finding resources that are going to be very helpful for the entire community. And as I think I have a feeling at this point, Tribal Fire may have their hand crew there or some semblance of it, so that people will have a sense of the service that they are going to be offering. Again, there's a great opportunity. I can think there's plenty of room in the parking lot to accomplish this. So we're working very closely with Terry Zeller and City Manager Morris to make sure that Town Hall, we're going to be COVID compliant, as well as indoor, outdoor with the parking lot. Making sure that we don't interrupt anybody else. And we want to make sure that we have plenty of room for the visitors to come in and out. The next steps will be, of course, getting as much of the word out to our general public as we can. County Fire and City PD have graciously allowed us access to their social media, distribution points. So that is very helpful. And Cleve, if we could probably arrange to get this on the city's webpage and updated as we move along. Of course, we'll be hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll finalize all of our attendees. And I would like to come back on March 8th, if that would be okay, for just a brief update. And we'll share with you, that final roster. We will also have a more formalized schedule of events. Just to plant a seed, it would be really great if we could have our mayor there, along with maybe David and city manager, to kick this thing off on the Saturday morning at 10 o'clock and, do a little formal opening. So with that, again, if there's any questions from either the council or staff, I'd be happy to take them. Patty?
Mark, how much help are you going to need? You need some more volunteers?
I've learned from David, we never turn anybody away.
I missed the last meeting, and I definitely am going to volunteer. I've already told you that, but I'm thinking we're going to need more people. It
Yes.
sounds like.
Yes, we are. And in working with Mr. Zeller this morning, again, great assistance and appreciation for his efforts. Fortunately, there are no events the Friday night before. So we're going to be able to do a lot of that basic table setting up and stuff and get the parking lot blocked off. That's a huge help. So he has blocked that day off also. So that's just a good luck thing. We could definitely use more help. There will be, cleanup afterwards. I'll just throw this out here today at a lunch meeting with David. We discussed the idea of some sort of food. It just seemed kind of appropriate that if you're out looking at fire engines and talking to Smokey the Bear, that you really ought to be able to have some food. And it will perhaps encourage the family members to stick around a little bit longer, or allow the parents to stick their kids over with the crayons and maybe a hot dog or a bag of popcorn. And they can then go get some additional information from one of our various booths. So we're open to see any suggestions and offers of assistance on making that happen. And one last thing I would like to mention is this came up again today in our lunch meeting, and that was, what is our big goal? And the big goal is the very time consuming and expensive permanent shaded fire breaks that all of our big grants go in for. And there's been some success. There will be more work done on it in the next 12 months, but we're looking at millions of dollars, multi-year project. It has to have an environmental review. It has to be certified safe by the state. And it's something that will protect two portions of the city on a permanent basis. One is south in the Weber Creek Canyon, and the other one is north in the Chili Bar Canyon. And as I've found working with Fire Safety Council, most people don't realize that we have way more southerly winds than we do northerly winds. And the Weber Creek Canyon to our south, any fire officer will assure you that that is the place that they hold their breath every afternoon in the summertime when the Delta breeze comes up. It's our little mini north wind here is what it equates to. So these efforts that David and others have worked so hard on in the last 2 years is these very large grant projects. And that is the thing that we want to share with our residents next month, as well as have some fun. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark and David, for bringing this item forward and sharing, about this event. And it sounds like you've been working really collaboratively with all of the partners in the area to bring everyone together to inform the public. So sounds like a great event. I have it on my calendar and we'll plan on attending on March 19th.
Kara, can I mention one more hairy thing we want to try to do?
Sure.
We'll try to publicize. We would like to use the same quadrants as the police department uses for patrol and evacuation planning. We want to turn each of those quadrants into a fire-wise community. So hopefully we'll have maps to look at and start recruiting captains and everybody else. You can help everyone save their fire insurance, get a discount on their fare plan if they're stuck with that, and maybe even save 10,000 lives. So that's all we're asking for.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thanks, Kara.
Well, we look forward to having you back and for checking out this event. Thank you so much.
See you March 8th. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Everyone.
All right, item 2.6.
Kara,
Yes,
Kara, do you want to open this up for public comment at all?
sure. I'm sorry. Yes, let's do that.
Public comment is open for item 6.1. This is regarding the Placerville Fire Safe Council announcement. If you are joining by phone, please select *9 to indicate your desire to speak, and you'll be called upon when it's your turn. If you're joining by a computer, select the raise hand option at the bottom of your screen. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and voluntarily state your name for the record. And you may be asked to unmute yourself before speaking. We have Sue Rodman. Go ahead, Sue.
Good evening, City Council, and good evening, Mark, and thank you, Mark and David, for for putting forward the Fire Safe Council's event. I'm a member of the Fire Safe Council and I'm very glad to participate. And I think this is going to be a very good idea and it's going to be a good event for people to come and learn how they can improve their chances to survive if a fire comes through Placerville. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
I see no other hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We will move on to item 6.2, brief comments to the City Council. And let's start with Patty.
Okay, I was going to report on Fire Safe Council, but I don't need to because Mark just and David just gave the entire report, which makes me very happy. They did a much better job than I would have done. So looking forward to the event. And I just hope that we have a lot of support from our community for them.
All right, thank you. Dennis.
Well, thank you. Attended a Sac Valley League of California Cities meeting. One of the things that came out of the meeting, which caused me some concern, was that there is the summary is the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. Somebody's trying to get something passed through the legislator. Authority, they want to adopt a new and stricter rules for raising taxes and fees and make it more difficult to hold violators of state and local laws accountable. It's also, there's a lot of really, I don't know how quite to describe this, but I think it's something that we should consider for a future agenda item. We'll talk about that at future agenda items, but it wants to actually, there's parts of it that want to go back and undo some of the taxes that have been done locally. It reduces the authority of local governments to actually put taxes in place to support our community like we have, even with the community, ones that community supports. There's quite a bit to it. State ballot measure restricting voters' input on local tax authority. And so I don't have the ballot measure AG, nope, I don't have the actual name of it yet, but it's something that's going through, and I think that they're looking for cities to and local jurisdictions to actually, send a letter to express their opinion on this matter. And there is I have more things that I can share with you online, or Cleve can share as well. Cleve, did you have, looks like you had something else to add to this?
Well, just quickly, I'd mentioned I believe it's been submitted to the Attorney General to establish the ballot measure name. That has not been established yet. League of Cities has requested that we take action early because they're only going to have about 3 months to gather their signatures. And the more we can do early on to oppose this, will discourage the signature gathering process also. So again, you can bring it up under future agenda items. My intent was to look at bringing something like this to you at your next meeting for consideration. So,
well, thank you very much, Cleve. One other thing, I was appointed vice chair. I'm following Mayor Taylor was previously the chair of El Dorado County Transportation Commission, and historically we swap off county and city in terms of who's chairing it. And so since Vice Mayor was there, they selected somebody from the city side, which is me. And so I will be vice chairing, and the following year I'll be chair, all things going like normal, for the Transportation Commission. One other thing, yet I hesitate saying something about this, but I gotta say it. It sounds like, and I'm not, I don't know who it is or what's going on. Actually, I kind of have some ideas, but some people are actually calling in the city council what appears to sound like they're drunk. And it's just not a good look. And I just have to say it. It's just, the people that are doing it, there's a credibility issue there when you're calling the council, which appears to be inebriated. And if you want to stay sober just long enough to get to the end of our meeting, that would be great, because you have a lot of important things to say to us, but when it comes across like you're drunk, it's not a good look. It doesn't sound good, and you just lose most of the credibility that you might have had doing that. I just wanted to throw that out there, and I do appreciate everybody that does call in. So I just thank you very much. I'm done with my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mhm.
Jackie
I don't have any comments at this time. Thanks.
and Michael.
Just want to follow up something that Mark mentioned in his comments, which was just to give some kudos to PG&E. I mean, I really have. I know I had PG&E on my street going up and down it, which is a really tiny little street, Green Street, going and doing some vegetation management, and I've seen them everywhere. I know there's tons of work to be done and decades of work that needed to be done, and there's still a lot to be done, but I will give credit for them getting out there, and I hope it signals a good thing for us next year when we get into fire season again and into PSPS season. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. And I just have some really brief comments. As Dennis mentioned, I stepped down from my position as chair with EDCTC, and I passed the torch on to John Heidel, and I look forward to seeing what happens this year with John Heidel as chair and Dennis Thomas as vice chair. And I also stepped down from my position as chair on the El Dorado Transit Authority as well, and passed the torch to John Heidel again. And Jackie No is going to be the vice chair this year. And there's a lot of exciting things happening there. I had a really good chat with District 4 California State Senate candidate, Jeff Mackey, or Jeff McKay. And we are now in District 4 with the redistricting. So it was an interesting chat. I appreciated him reaching out to get to know his district better. And we talked about, everything from homelessness to the need for more vegetation management. And it was a really good talk. And I had the opportunity to tour Chuck's Wellness Center, which I did. And it was great to see, this business that's been a long time in the works, and they've done a great job. And I got a better understanding of all of the kind of regulatory and security things that go on in the background of these cannabis businesses. So that's all my comments for tonight. And we will move on to item 7, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. We'll open. Yes, Pierre.
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I may, I just want to make a couple comments on the minutes from January the 25th, if I may.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'd like to direct the council to item 12.6, and that was the discussion on short-term rentals. So if you look there at the end, the council's action, it was my recollection that what the council did was direct us to bring back an ordinance that would allow short-term vacation rentals in the commercial and the highway commercial zone, since we already do allow by special temporary use permit short-term rentals into central business district.
Yes, that was my understanding as well.
Okay.
Any council members have anything else to add? No. Okay. As a temporary use permit.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else on that?
That's it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So Pierre, just so I understand, so we would remove central business district and add commercial districts.
That's correct. Yes. Because basically we already allow short-term rentals under a special temporary use permit in the CBD. And then we were adding highway commercial and commercial, since though both those zones currently allow lodging, hotels and motels.
Correct. I just want to make sure I had the right language in there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the consent calendar up to public comment at this time. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on an item on the consent calendar? All right, I see no hands raised. So we will close public comment and move on to, we'll close public comment on the consent calendar. And do we have a motion for this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar
Second,
As amended,
As amended.
as
yeah.
amended.
as a
Okay.
Thank you.
second,
Okay, we have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Borelli,
aye.
Councilmember No,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
I,
All right, moving on to item 8, public comment on non-agendized items. So at this time, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda that falls within our jurisdiction. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. We will have a timer up. The timer will have a warning bell when there's 30 seconds left. I ask that you monitor your own time. I do not enjoy cutting you off, but we do want to be fair to everyone. So after 3 minutes, your comment period will end. I appreciate it if you state your name voluntarily for the record, especially over Zoom. It's nice to connect the dots as we can't see your faces. So with that, let's go ahead and open this up to public comment on non-agendized items.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening, council and mayor. And I would just like to congratulate the city on opening the old post office building. I believe that's the one that's next to the courthouse, for giving the homeless people a place to be when the churches are not providing that. I think that was a wonderful thing. I hope that we could do that next year a lot earlier so that we can do it when the weather is bad, so say in the middle of October through March and April, instead of waiting until February to even begin to give them some relief. So good job. Thank you. And that's all I need to say.
Thank you, Sue.
Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
Good evening, council. I wanted to address the city council tonight on the City of Placerville strategic plan process. I know you have heard from me before on this. I understand you're not able to develop a plan the way the county has, but I'm hoping you're able to devise a plan to involve the community in a meaningful way on the City of Placerville's upcoming strategic plan before it is developed and finalized. Perhaps the vision and mission statement would be a good place to start. Perhaps you could hire a facilitator or consultant to engage the public in a meeting not run by the city, or perhaps input could be gathered in a mailing to residents, a survey well crafted to allow for open answers from residents. Maybe consultant dollars could be spent on that at a reasonable price for what the importance of this is. It seems perfectly reasonable for the city to use some of their American Rescue Plan Act funds to engage the public. Tonight, you have a business strategic plan before you and other issues related to the business community where I know they have been able to give input. So I urge you to think about how you could involve the public in a more meaningful way. Crafting a process that encourages residents to weigh in on Placerville's present and future vision will be a way to bring positive connectedness with the community. I mentioned at that last workshop that you had about a quote, but I couldn't find it. It was from Santa Barbara City Council man, and I did find it. His name is Hal Conklin. And his quote is this, and it's very meaningful to me and always has been. The American city is in search of a new vision. We must restore to our communities a structure that is vital, one that not only cares about its neglected bridges and roads, but one that also cares about its infrastructure of the spirit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 179, go ahead.
Good evening, council and mayor. This is Jonathan Gainsborough. And I am so proud of Cleve and all 5 of you and the whole team. December 26th, apparently the decision was made, and what a wonderful decision to fill the 3 empty nights that our homeless had no shelter to be under. And I'm talking about 80 or 90 homeless women in the last point in time count, and 5, as we all know, low 600 total county homeless. But I'm very proud of the decision. And then January 26th, the county stepped forward because you all stepped forward. And Cleve, I'm very impressed with your helping lead with the council with you to do the right thing. I can't believe that it's been 8 years that these churches have been doing the nomadic shelter. And so I just want to cast a vision for next year. Let's not have 5 sites in 7 nights. It's crazy that the churches are having to set up in 5 different locations, with the former DA office being the 5th. So let's aim for a single site location next year, and I will be casting the same vision to the supervisors. As Jesus said, inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did do it for me. And Jesus says, I was homeless and you took me in. I just, in closing, I want to say that the crisis is still out there with the homeless. I prayed with a young lady that couldn't come in to the Bible study at Upper Room. And so I asked her what happened, and she said that she had just got out of the hospital, and I said, the 30-second warning, she said that she had doused herself with gasoline and lit herself on fire. Now that can happen in ISIS or in Cambodia, but not in America. So let's keep on with putting a roof and wrapping the homeless up with the love of God and with the love of this county. God bless you all. Keep on doing the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Last call for oral communication. I see no further public comments, Madam Mayor.
All right, we will close public comment with oral communication and move on to written communication. Did we receive any written communication?
Nothing to report at this time, Mayor.
Okay, all right, thank you. We will skip 10 and 11 on the agenda as we have no ordinances or public hearings, and move on to our discussion items. 12.1, hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving a hotel incentive agreement with Apple Hill Hospitality LLC, outlining additional incentives for the construction of a hotel in Placerville. And Mr. Morris, you have this report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to briefly say that I want to hold off reporting on this until a little later. I'm going to ask, we have representatives from Eat, Drink, and Sleep, the hotel developer here, and I've asked them to do a brief presentation for the council on the hotel that they actually plan to build here. So if you give me 1 minute, I'm going to bring them in as panelists so that they can share their screen and share their dream, I will say, and our dream of what could happen with this. So give me just 1 second. So Steve and Brett, you should be allowed. I want to introduce Brett Miller, who is the developer, and Steve. I'm sorry, Steve, my mind's going blank on your last name, but thank you for being here. You should be able to both unmute or, thank you, Steve, sorry.
That's right.
And share your screen if you'd like to at this time. Appreciate you being here.
Great. Thanks, Mayor and Vice Mayor Cleve, City Council members, having me in front of you today. I'm going to take a couple minutes and briefly talk a bit about, very briefly, about our company and what we're doing, and kind of rewind on the, I'm going to make sure I know how to do the whole screen share. Okay. To make sure that we're all starting from the same point. This is the piece of the development we were talking about. Can you see my screen hopefully there with the map on it?
Yes.
You know, this is a couple parcels next to each other, but the one on the right that has the cement slabs poured, you're probably driven by it in the past to know that this was an abandoned project. Previously, a Holiday Inn Express that was approved that got taken out during the recession. There's been a couple of restarts on this, trying to find the right product, the right type of hotel to occupy this space. And we ended up meeting Apple Hill Hospitality, the Browns, who have property up in this area, and really started to develop this vision of creating a boutique hotel that can not only deliver a great product that the community can be proud of, also should be a great partnership with the city, being able to offer some, you know, premium rooms and of course entry-level rooms, but really at the gateway to the Apple Hill area, the distinctive wine region that continues to grow. You end up having a foothold for people that want to go whitewater rafting and cycling and things like that. So my charge and my position in this company, I'm with Eat, Drink, and Sleep. I've been with them for 18 and a half years. My role is the Vice President of Operations, but I also in that role work on trying to problem solve. And one of them was to figure out, how do we take this partial building, the slab that's in the ground, the plumbing that's underground, and to develop a boutique hotel concept that sits on top of that, which allows us to build quickly and hopefully a little bit more efficiently. But it is a challenge to develop something that was meant to be really the most inoffensive building you can possibly find and turn into something that creates desire and creates higher occupancy and average daily rate. It's a term that we call ADR. It looks like I can only do this one screen at a time, so I'm going to be jumping around just a bit here. To remind you, the slab that we're sitting on, it was originally approved as this project here, which was the Holiday Inn Express. You can see the central driveway there on the right-hand side, which was big enough for a fire truck, stacked stone and things like that. So it fit the surroundings pretty well. It wasn't really dynamic enough to call it a boutique hotel, but this is the slab we've been working with all along to try and make sure that we have the most efficient build as possible. Next, I'm going to move into some renderings of the exterior of the building. I'm pretty well versed on the layout. I'm one of the people who worked on it and worked with some of the engineering people to make sure we could use footings that are in place and things like that. So I'm going to share for 1 second. Share my screen one more time. And this is a rendering program. And when I share it with you, I want to have a couple of asterisks that go with the presentation. Number one is renderings generated by a computer always look more polished, more modern, more edgy than they really appear in real life, because every angle is perfect, every line is perfect. And these rendering programs actually show things in a slightly skewed wide angle view. So it's not exactly perfect for this purpose. But in a sense, when you look at this project that we have, which right now is called the Mackinac Hotel, and you'll see that it will take just a moment for this to redraw every time I move it, it really retains the basic shape of the Holiday Inn Express. We don't have as many peaked roof. We have more of a shed roof style, which you might call something in order to more mountain modern. But we've retained a lot of the aspects. The great room just inside here, the large fireplace, which we've now made a two-sided fireplace. We've also widened the patio a bit, so you end up with a patio that has much greater functionality for food and beverage or those types of things. And our company is not just a hotel company. We are a developer, we're an owner, we're an operator, and we're a designer. So we do every facet of that. We've done ground up construction. We built Tower 23 from a parking lot on the beach down in San Diego. We've renovated historic hotels like the Padre Hotel in Bakersfield, California. And so we have a pretty broad background. And at each one of those hotels, we have 5 we've developed all together, 5 that we currently own, is that we're trying to deliver a product that fits in the surroundings, but it's unique and can deliver ultimately the best package. We are also food and beverage oriented. My background for years, I was a senior managing partner at Morton's Restaurant Group, the steakhouse company. I worked with the Buccini Group in San Francisco. And I'm glad to say that our company over time has won numerous awards. Tower 23, their restaurant, has won Best Hotel Fine Dining 7 times in the 16 years that we've been open. We've won awards at other restaurants as well for sports bars and Mexican cuisines. So the orientation of the hotel, of course, this is the street right in front. And one of the nice things about these programs is it allows us to import the topography of the area right out of Google Maps so that we can understand how it relates to what's happening behind it. Now, these are not exact at this point, and you'll realize, for instance, this ridge line behind the hotel is going to have a 120-foot tree on top of it because it's all showing in kind of 2D mapping view. So the hotel, when you look at it in relation to the road, is the roof of the hotel is right about at road level, just on the west end. That gives you a sense of the scale of the building as it sits on this land. This hotel ended up being about 8 or 10 feet shorter than the last iteration of this hotel. It's 106 rooms. And a couple of things we've tried to do that create the complete lifestyle boutique hotel experience is to have more relevant food and beverage, the possibility of doing more social events, not just business meetings, and then creating an atmosphere that's unique that ends up reflecting the local community, whether it be the historical aspects, agriculture, fishing, the mining history, all those things, but with kind of a forward look to really draw a more premium clientele. You'll see right here in the center that we took out 5 of the rooms originally planned for the top floor, and we put in a rooftop deck. When we zoom in, this will redraw in 1 second. This has restrooms, a freestanding bar. The structure you see on the front can be covered in the wintertime with plastics. You could have a holiday party up there or a gathering in the wintertime under the stars. Typically, our decks are really focused for the guests of the hotel at 106 rooms. If you end up with about 1.5 to 1.7 people per room, that means at any one time we could have 150 or 60 people on premise. And for most of our properties, these rooftop decks, and this would be the fourth one that we've done, ultimately our goal is to protect the experience of the hotel guests, because for us, that's really where profitability is driven from. So when you see a rooftop deck, you may think, oh, this is, Las Vegas, or this is, West LA, but that's really not what this is about. This is creating a photo op and a opportunity to deliver a unique experience for the guests. Because when you look across the road right here, not only do you have beautiful trees, but then you've got the wineries in the distance and everything else. And this will redraw in just 1 second as you look out the front of the building. So this is kind of a central focus point for the people that are staying at the hotel. And for us, a great marketing opportunity that elevates you above the street and is something kind of unique. The exterior of the building, which is a combination of stone and cladding. Right here, it might look like batten board cladding, but they'll probably end up being cementitious board because it's better for waterproofing. At nighttime, we'll light the face of the building. We have natural wood underneath all the overhangs, so that'll glow at nighttime. We want to really exude a lot of warmth. Just going to draw here in 1 second. Come on. Back up and see how that helps. There we go. And of course, you'll see some lights up here on the deck. Downstairs, the great room, which is a carryover from what we've done before, or what was here before, empties out onto this space down the front that becomes super desirable, right across the street from the winery and some of the hillside. It's a beautiful view out there. And then the very small restaurant that was part of the Holiday Inn, which really just served a continental breakfast in the morning, is now a full service restaurant, albeit not great, not giant in size. But then we utilize the great weather outdoors, and we have an area up front, and this is an indoor outdoor bar with overhead lighting, mounted heaters, and those types of things. And on this far end, we have an opportunity to do something that could double as a little bit of a special event space or a place where you can gather with friends. The style of the menu is going to be high quality, as local as we can buy it, and affordable. And at the same time, we want to have something that someone who is a local would love, someone who's visiting here from San Francisco, but something that's relevant for the community. And I think you'll see that reflected in the ingredients and the menu style. We do believe that this is a great opportunity to integrate both the indoors and outdoors. Like I said, people come here to bike, they come here to relax. And so we have, these are going to be roll-up doors like you'd find like a garage door that are out of glass, and inside is our gym. We've got a workout area where we could do sunset yoga, we could have bike class. There'll be a big oversized jacuzzi right here. There'll be some weights on the inside. So those people who want to rent a bike, we're going to have, at all of our properties, we have free cruiser bikes to use so people can get out and enjoy the sun and the community. We're also probably going to have electric bikes available to rent and other things like that. And we're going to coordinate tours for the wineries and some whitewater rafting and stuff like that. So it made sense to have the lifestyle outdoor activity, which is kind of quintessential Placerville, as part of this property as well. We're going to park it very similarly to what we did before. The main arrival sequence would go into this large awning in the front right here. And you can see the front doors are here to the left. This will end up being a a valet optional property. So if you want a valet park, you can. We're not going to make it mandatory for people to valet park, but it will be a great option for us, especially if you have a social event. The Holiday Inn previously, behind these doors right here, had some interior meeting space, about 3,000 square feet, that was fine for meeting events. It has a low overhead, relatively low overhead, but not really great for social events. So we've tried to reconfigure those rooms, get a little bit more headroom below the first floor. And then we've added on this pre-function space outdoors just outside those rooms. So if you wanted to have a meeting for, let's say, 45 people, then you could come out to this front patio, set up for 50 people for lunch, have a lunch break outside, enjoy the beautiful weather, and then move back in for the second half of your meeting. So the idea behind this property is to make it really multifunctional so that it's relevant to someone who has a business plan, a business meeting, or something that is like a corporate getaway or a business getaway, for locals who want to use it for social events, meeting events, those types of things. And I think it's going to be viewed as a property, depending on who you are, very differently by different people. Some people will think, nice resort. We have some very large rooms. Up here on this top floor, you'll see that we have these transom lights because these rooms out near the edge have 14-foot ceilings. The rest of the property is 9-foot ceilings. On the back side, the view is not quite as dynamic, but the idea is to use materials and some of the undulations of the building to create a more dynamic backside of the building. This is a driveway that takes you up this kind of upper level where there's parking as well. And of course, we plan a future development down on the other side. This does not show the full extent of the parking. It's really just the pad that the building sits on. We have covered awnings on the backside. So if someone has valeted their car, there's going to be a stand out here with the valet. They come and hand the keys. There'll be a waiting area under an overhang. And then this is going to be where the cars will be pulled up to get valet parking for those who want to use that opportunity. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to drop down here. I think that's kind of the overview of the hotel. And one thing I will speak to as it relates to this matter of some of the TOT things is one of the reasons you may look at some of the old numbers that were presented. For instance, there was a previous model presented and approved as it related to, I think it was the Hampton Inn and Suites. And you may look at this one and what we're projecting and say, well, what's the big difference? Well, the big difference for us is we're about the same room count, but for us, we think our occupancy will be similar in terms of its percentage of occupancy. But the place where boutique hotels really excel is in really two areas. That's driving rate, ADR, average daily rate, especially on the weekends is where they really shine. So a business hotel like a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn Express will run very good numbers Monday through Thursday, but then the weekends are relatively soft. So what we want to do is design a hotel like we've done at Padre Hotel in Bakersfield or the Rambler Motel in Chula Vista, and create something that's relevant on the weekdays for the business traveler, affordable. You know, obviously the rooms that face the freeway, especially the ones that are a little bit smaller, will be less expensive. But then at the same time, capture a huge amount of weekend business. And that's what we've done at the Padres as well. So Monday, Thursday, business travelers, people in suits carrying briefcases, checking in for 24 to 48 hours. And on the weekends, it's people celebrating social events. They're on their way up to the Sierra Nevadas. They're going to stop there for a day or two and enjoy some of our outstanding food and beverage. So that's the kind of the short spiel on this one. Some of you may have seen some of these elements before or may not have. But I will turn it back to Cleve unless you have something you want me to express further.
Well, I would just like to say thank you for this presentation. This is the first time that I've really gotten, you know, to view the project and what it's going to look like. And I think it looks amazing and it will be a really great addition to the community if we can get it off the ground. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council before I move on? Or?
Yeah, I'll make a comment. I just want to say I've been to the Padres several times. We've had client work in Bakersfield, and it's a terrific job you guys did with the Padre, which really took a historical building that was pretty tired and really turned it into something that retained that historical value and look, but turned it into something hip and cool with some great food options and just some really nice rooms. So I when I heard that you had done those as well, I was really excited about what you would be doing here in Placerville. And from what I can see, you've really delivered on that as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Jackie.
Yeah, no, I really appreciated like looking to our community and realizing we have a bike community and we have a trail, and offering electric bikes will be great for people who want to go downtown and grab something and come back up. I'm not really sure about the beach cruisers. Those would be really strong people, but like seeing the dogs. It looks like it's going to be a dog friendly hotel with some of those rooms, and yeah, looks like a good project.
I just want to kind of echo what Kara said. This is the first time that I've really seen the plans, and I am so impressed, and I can hardly wait. This is going to be such a great asset for our city.
Excellent, thank you.
Else, we good there?
Good.
All right. Thank you, Brett and Steve. Steve Smith, I apologize for that in the beginning.
It's a hard name to remember. It's a hard name to remember, Cleve.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyway, so with that, I will move on to the remainder of the agenda item, which is to a request to approve a hotel incentive agreement with Apple Hill Hospitality LLC. In 2015, as you recall, the council adopted a hotel incentive program, which consisted of transient occupancy tax sharing to incentivize and hopefully attract hotel developers to Placerville. In 2016, we adopted an agreement with the previous developer, same owners as we have here. However, previous developer that was working with them at the time, as mentioned, was for the Hampton Inn project. Excuse me. With that, when we moved forward, the agreement was approved and we were able to move forward to a point. However, that project was not successful, as we all know, and did not move forward. We have now been working with Eat, Drink, and Sleep, as well as the owners of the property. They mentioned the Brown family, which we are calling Apple Hill Hospitality LLC at this point, the new group. And we are recommending that it's basically a new agreement. There were some provisions where we could have simply maybe assigned that agreement to the new owners. However, in discussions with our city attorney and with the developer, we felt it was more appropriate to establish a new agreement. I will say that the provisions in the agreement in terms of TOT sharing are exactly the same as what they were for the previous agreement. And I'll review those quickly. Those consist of a total of $6 million over what could be up to a 20-year period. The initial 3.5 million is what is spelled out within our incentive program that we adopted. In addition to that, because of the unique challenges of this project, which include the existing foundation that they have to work with, I know that I was out there on the site with them a couple of months ago looking at some of the issues that may be involved with that. And so there is possibly some work and some more study that we'll have to go into making sure that that foundation fits and will work as they begin construction going forward. We believe it will be, and we're fairly confident on that. But other things in terms of the topography, additional walls, completion of the retaining walls, there's a couple of retaining walls that require completion, and things like that will be required in order to move forward with the property. We came up with a figure of 1.5 million to address that. And then finally, as the final incentive, we identified a $1 million incentive for them, assuming that they are the first hotel to come in and develop since the program started. And at this point, we believe they will be. So those are how we get to the total $6 million for this incentive. As is required when you adopt an incentive agreement like this, it is required that this be publicly noticed. This was publicly noticed in the paper a couple of weeks ago for this date, outlining what the specific TOT sharing would consist of. In total, that $6 million. And that is available on our website as was required also. Under the previous developer, the developer would have received would have received up to $6 million over the 20-year period. And the city would have received a return of 5.7 million based on their estimates. Under this new developer, as Steve just mentioned, there's a difference in how they in their pricing and occupancy and some of those things. that makes this come out differently. So they are looking at, over a 20-year period, $16.7 million, which means, again, the developer will receive $6 million over that period, and the city will receive 10.7 million. I think those numbers are important to emphasize. That is a significant increase and a significant number for the city. Now, I want to emphasize, if you look at the spreadsheet that was included in the report, over the first about 5 to 10 years of this project, we won't receive a lot. We will receive some on a regular basis, which will assist us. But once we hit approximately year 12, that is when we are estimating they will reach their 6 million. And from there going forward, we will receive a significant amount of TOT going forward. So I think this is a good program. I am very excited. I want to compliment Eat, Drink, and Sleep, their company, and the Brown family of Apple Hill Hospitality have both been excellent to work with. I've been very happy with our relationship and what we've been able to achieve, the give and take to get this to where it is today. And we're excited to see it. As you know, it went to the Planning Commission in January and was approved at that level. And there's a couple of things they need to do in terms of, I believe, a landscape plan, lighting plan, and sign plan, I believe, to go back to the Planning Commission. But I hope minor details that they can come back with quickly. And I know they are working on those and be ready to come forward with building plans soon, this spring, early summer, that we can hopefully get them going. So with that, I will turn it back to you, council. Both Brett and Steve are still here. If there's questions you have that they can answer, and I'll be happy to answer those. Also, Pierre Rivas is here and can answer questions regarding this also. Thank you.
Thank you, Cleve. Do we have any questions from the council at this time? Yes, Michael.
Cleve, just a question. So if for some reason the hotel was to be sold prior to year 12, or just any time basically before the term of this 20-year TOT, would that revert to the next, or would we be back at sort of the table with whoever the new owner is negotiating the new TOT plan? I just want to make sure we're protected long-term if ownership changes.
There is language in there that addresses that. In fact, I believe, and Steve and Brett, maybe you can help me here. I'm trying to find the language that states that, well, first of all, it could be simply assigned to a new hotel owner. But there's language in here that talks about them not selling, unless it is to, I believe it's the language is to someone that of similar style or similar type hotel operators as they are. So there is some language that kind of addresses that in this agreement.
So they couldn't, sell it to a Super 8 motel or something like that?
They could not, no.
Because my main concern is just protecting, since the bulk of our revenue doesn't come in until year 12. I mean, if it got sold in year 11, even if it was to another boutique operator, that we would still retain that TOT going forward. I want to confirm that would be the case. So if, whatever, Placerville LLC decides to buy it, some new independent owner, would we still have that same TOT coming in years 12 through 20, assuming that they, that level of people came in to use the hotel?
I don't know. I'm going to ask Mona, if you're there, if you can help me with that, but I believe it would be, that it does require that ongoing.
Right. So then any successor in interest would still be subject to the city's municipal code, which requires a 10% transient occupancy tax, regardless of whether the proprietor, the operator had an agreement with the city.
Okay.
So council, Brett Miller of Eat, Drink, and Sleep can also address that if you'd like him to. He has his hand raised.
That'd be great.
Yeah, Regina, can you let Brett talk?
Brett, you have been promoted to panelist, so you should be able to speak now.
Yeah, Brett, if you can unmute yourself and if you want to undo your camera, you should be able to do that now.
There you go. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry, it's there's 4 mute buttons on my computer. I just want to speak on behalf of what would happen if we sold. We don't intend to sell, so I think the only thing, and Michael, thank you for all the positive comments about the Padre. We don't develop to turn and burn. We develop for long-term cash flow. So if we sold, it most likely would be because there was some kind of catastrophic recession and the project just wasn't doing what it's supposed to. Do realize that it is a revenue share with the city on the TOT. We do take the majority of it for the first 5 years. But after that point, whoever comes in and does buy the project, they may not do the same numbers as us, but with, we didn't calculate any kind of inflation in those numbers. It's just a straight line shot of what we think we're going to do there. But the only reason we would sell is because there was something catastrophic that happened. We don't look at this as something that's going to double our money overnight. It's going to take a while, and that's why Placerville is so difficult. Is there really isn't any way to look like. We believe so much in the city of Placerville that we're going to build a boutique quality project here. It's not a 2-star hotel. It's really nice, but from our observations of being in the city, meeting the people of the city, is that the Apple Hill area can support a hotel project of this caliber. So. Ideally for us, we'd like to say, hey, well, year 8, you're getting, $1 million a year in TOT taxes. That's what we'd like to see happen. We want to beat the projections that are set forth there because we need to get, the reason that the project needs this support is it's risky. You've had this incentive program for 12 years. And no one's done it yet. It's scary for us. We're like, well, why not? But we've been to the local areas and it's very well served by tourists and it's very well served by the community of Placerville. So if something bad happened and we had to sell, well, the next ownership is going to have to assume the same deal that we've made with you. And I don't want to see that happen. I want to see us get through the 10 years and when we're open for 5 years, I would assume that you're going to have 4 new hotels in Placerville because we're going to pave the way that a lot of other developers say, wait a second, they're doing so well. Why are we been overlooking Placerville? It's how it happened in Bakersfield. I mean, Mike, you remember downtown Bakersfield, and so does Pierre. There was literally tumbleweeds going down the streets of Bakersfield, and that project had been closed for 40 years. We opened it up and the amount of development around us was extraordinary and it helped us. So anyway, I don't know exactly how to answer the question, but the agreement in place is assignable to somebody else. They have to live up to the terms that you're happy with. The unfortunate thing is that for me, that if that was to occur, it meant that we didn't do as well as we thought. And we definitely are not walking away with a windfall money in our pockets if that happens. We need to be successful to do well here financially.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
I see our city attorney with her hand up.
Just to clarify, the agreement allows the city to entertain amending the agreement to allow a successor in interest to take on the burdens and obligations of the agreement, but it doesn't require us to allow it. So if there is a future sale, the city could simply say that you're just going to give us the 10% in accordance with the ordinance, and you're not going to get the benefit of these incentive payments. So I wanted to make that clear for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yes, Dennis.
Well, I was gonna actually say the same thing. It seems like if they left after 5 years, the deal's done, we wash our hands and we collect all 10% to the city instead of having the share agreement. And if I mean, they are taking a significant financial risk. And if they were to go down that road, they would also suffer. It would be a catastrophic failure, or they would try and sell it. And if they tried and sold it, they would have to work with us to get that over the finish line. And so I feel comfortable in that space, like the city attorney talked about. I think we're in a strong position when it comes to something like that. And I've met with these people a couple times over the last, what has it been, about a year or so, and I've always found them to be very attentive to the city's needs and understanding of what we need to get this project going. And you know what, it's like Brett said, we've been a while at this, so I truly appreciate somebody coming in. So that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I've got a quick question. Once, if this is approved, how long before we can expect construction to start?
That's a good question. We would hope that, Brett and Steve, maybe one of you can add in here. I'm hoping, as I mentioned, plans would be submitted to us this spring, early summer-ish. Going to take a couple of 2 to 3 months, I'm guessing, to get those approved and go through all the plan checks. It's for us, a fairly significant project. But then I believe it's about an 18-month construction period from that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that timeline's pretty close. I think we're going to submit, get the approvals. We'd really like to be what we call swinging hammers by September, or October. That's kind of the timeline. And we've been meeting with some representatives from contractors we've worked with in the past, who may be own representatives in this case. And they're really assessing the plans, trying to give us a firm timeline. It's a little bit of an unusual circumstance having the slab and the existing plumbing in the ground, because it's just not the typical construction cycle. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go as fast as we can. And then as an operator, obviously we're trying to take advantage. So if you said, oh, you started construction in September of this year, we'd really want to be opening for, a summer and a half later. So there's an impetus for us to get things done in pretty short order. So we feel pretty good about it. Our construction advisors are working on it, and we should have better understanding in the next probably 30 days.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
If there's no other questions from the council, I'd like to open this up to public comment this time.
Public comment is now open for item 12.1, the hotel incentive agreement with Apple Hill Hospitality. We'll start with Mickey Kaiserman. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Mickey Kaiserman. I saw the presentation that Steve gave earlier to Peak, and there's also an additional revenue stream that's not mentioned in here, because we're going to be receiving sales tax revenue from the restaurant as well. And so that will be added to the city coffers, and we all know the city runs on sales tax. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Mickey.
And I support this program for sure.
Thank you.
Kirk Smith, go ahead.
Hi. I wanted to let you know that I'm impressed by the presentation. This group has an impressive track record. The Hotel Padre in Bakersfield, for example, it's a good record to run on. My concern is to promote this as it was described as a gateway to Apple Hill and the wineries, all of which are outside the city, and no reference to the special charm of was once the third largest town in California. What was once described as the capital, going to be the capital of the state. Special charm. We have downtown businesses like art galleries that offer art that's comparable to what you find in the big cities, but at a fraction of the price. There's all kinds of special things here. So if you're going to promote it, it would be helpful if it was promoted as a place for promoting Placerville rather than places that are outside the city limits. Sure, it's nice to get those occupancy revenues and the revenue from sales tax, but we could increase the sales tax revenue if there was promotion of businesses in town. We've long been plagued by out-of-towners who describe us as a stopping off point on the way to the slopes of the Sierras or the gambling spots. So I feel more warm and fuzzy if I heard some discussion about how this was going to promote business in the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Last call for item 12.1. Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
Yes, it's me again. Dennis's comment about it's been a while. We've been a while at this is an understatement, actually. In the late 80s, Pea Soup Anderson was proposed, and I was on the council then, and I voted against it. And it would be so nice to have a hotel in that location. We're all anxious to have a hotel there. I'm gathering, I know that probably something was appealed in the past to the city council and all of the different things that were proposed, but I just wondered, does this, because council members are saying that they're seeing the plan, presentation for the first time, is it something that's totally up to the planning commission to approve, and has it been approved? And I'm sorry, I haven't really followed this. And I know you're not talking about the project, but since there was a presentation tonight, and that was the first time I'd seen the drawings, I can't help but think about it. I thought it would be a hotel that was designed to fit into the foothill community. And I don't know, there's neighborhoods that are really close, so I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know anything about that. Is the design still being developed, or is it been finalized? I was glad to see that the Planning Commission was asking for more information about the signage. Mackinac is a cool logo or sign, but I'm glad they're asking to have it come back. And also the landscaping. And I guess I have a question. Is this typical, what you're actually being asked to approve tonight, is this typical of projects for a city to do this? And I know it was actually approved way in the past, and you're just updating it. Oh, and I have one more question. Will there ever be a gas station on this property? That was really a bone of contention in the past. And so I didn't know if that would come in later or if it's just not being considered anymore. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy.
Madam Mayor, at this time, I do not see any further hands raised.
Okay, all right, we will close public comment on this item. There was a couple questions that came up. Cleve, would you mind addressing some of these? Where is this project at in the Planning Commission?
Sure, and Pierre can jump in here, but this was taken to the Planning Commission in January. It was approved, both the project, so the basic design of the building was approved. I mentioned landscape lighting and signage, I believe still have to come back. That's because they were not included in the submittal. So those need to go back to Planning Commission, is my recollection. Pierre can add to that. Also, that was, as I mentioned, it did go to the Planning Commission. It was approved. There is I believe a 10-day appeal period, which we have now exhausted. So it was not appealed to the City Council. So there is no requirement for that to come forward to the City Council at this time. Regarding the gas station, I will just say that my discussions with the developer is that nothing is going forward at this time, but in the future they plan to do something on that site. that was planned as a gas station. They do not plan that to be a gas station, however. So, Pierre, anything else you can add to that?
No, I don't. I think you did a great job covering those questions, City Manager Morris. If there's any other questions, I'm happy to jump in.
One other question, in regards to, is this arrangement typical, this TOT sharing typical? My understanding is that this is not an uncommon arrangement, but maybe you can speak more on that.
I will tell you that the program that we adopted, our hotel incentive agreement, was patterned after a hotel incentive program in Palm Springs, California. Now you may say, well, we're not Palm Springs, but it is not uncommon. I've talked to other cities who do this also. The amounts may vary from time to time. These amounts we used in terms of the base incentive, the 3.5 million, is the exact same as what they were looking at in Palm Springs. So that did not change. The additional amounts, those will vary from city to city, depend on what they are looking for. I will say that I think ours is fairly aggressive, and that is because I came here 11 years ago and was tasked with trying to get a hotel in town, and I still have not accomplished that. And so I don't think it's giving away more than we need to, but I do think it is aggressive in trying to get a hotel to develop in the city of Placerville.
All right, thank you. Yes, Patty.
I was just going to share my experience. I'm starting my 16th year on the city council. And when I first came aboard, that a hotel was certainly in my vision. And I've made several trips with the Chamber of Commerce, and we've gone to other cities. And I've also become friends with a couple of the folks that are working with the hotels in Folsom. And we went so far as we had them come up to Placerville, and I really pushed for them to try to get a hotel up here, and they just walked away. And they said it just wasn't going to work. And I agree with the gentleman, I can't remember if it was Steve or the other fellow, that said that, they're taking a chance. And I don't think they are. I really think this is going to go. And I've had that same feeling for 15 years. And I just think that it's just something that's really, I think everybody's going to, succeed. And I just want to really say, I'm just so happy that we're finally getting where we are. And I know it's going to go. I just know it.
Thank you, Patty. Yes, Dennis.
Yeah, it's probably not a great negotiating technique to say you're giving me too much money, but to the same extent, these guys, we've been waiting a long time for a hotel to come along, and I know that we've worked very closely with them over their time here to make sure that this works for them. As far as the marketing, when they actually undersold it when they talked about the location and things, and sitting down and chatting with them, they really, one of the things that brought them to this town was the downtown. They went into several restaurants. It's going to be a strong referral into the town. Not everybody's going to want to get their hotel, and Placerville and downtown is going to be a key part of their referral source, and they want to have a very close relationship with the town. I know this, we've talked to them, that's where their head is at. And so that's a really good, I walked away feeling like they understood our town, and they've spent some time here going to the restaurants and eating, ordering a lot of food, and just checking things out to see what this town looks like before they actually pull the trigger. And one of the things that Kathy talked about was what we were expecting and what we're seeing now. And I had the same feeling because and I know a lot of people did. They had this feeling of, well, we're going to get this kind of lodgy feel. It's going to be this, it's going to have this, it's going to fit in with all the pine trees and all these other things. And these people have a different vision. And it took me about a week to really embrace and understand their vision. And I shared with them my apprehension when they showed it to me for the first time. I got a first blush at it, being the mayor and doing all this stuff. I got the first blush at some of the stuff. And And it took me a little bit, but I came around because one, it's their vision, it's their investment, it's what they're doing. And when you think about it, it actually works in our community. And it's a slightly different field than what we were expecting, but I've grown to really appreciate their vision and their thought on how they want to do it. If you research the name Mackinac, you'll find some interesting history on that. That's really not about the place back east, but it's more about some other things. And I'm not going to go on all the history, but it's interesting. So they've spent some time, as well as their interior and some of the features they're doing. They are incorporating our community, the Gold Rush era, and a lot of these things into it. So they're not just focused on wine and focused on Apple Hill and focused on people traveling to Tahoe. Thank you,
Dennis. And I see a hand raised for Eat, Drink, Sleep, so I'll give them an opportunity to provide a brief closing statement.
And not so much a closing, but just one commentary. I think that you're right on. This hotel does not work without the city, the classic downtown Placerville. This hotel would not be built if the city of Placerville didn't exist, and it may not be built if the wine country. So for us, we're just building on what Placerville has already started and broadening the reach for the people who want to visit the area. We'd love to run the shuttles downtown so we can drop people off so they can go down and have dinner and enjoy themselves and see a show. Then we pick them up and bring them back to the hotel. So it's going to be a fully integrated property with the downtown Placerville district, without a doubt. So I just wanted to address that real quick.
Thank you for clarifying that. All right, any other comments from council? I would just like to thank Eat, Drink, Sleep and Apple Hill Hospitality for taking this risk in our community and wanting to invest in this way. We so desperately need this hotel. It's going to be such an amenity and such an asset for our community. I'm really excited about this project. And I also want to thank Cleve and Pierre. I know that you two have been working hard on this for a long time. So thank you for all that you've done to get this to where it is now. Yes, Patty.
I'd like to make a motion
All right.
that we approve the agreement as recommended.
All
right, we have a first and a second from Jackie. Can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
All right. Item 12.2, adopt the city's updated economic strategic plan as recommended by the Placerville Economic Advisory Committee. And Mr. Moore, we have this staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate that. However, I am going to introduce our Placerville Economic Advisory Committee Chair, Deborah Miller, and Vice Chair Mickey Kaiserman, who will present this item and answer questions. And then, like I say, I will also be available to do that. So.
All right.
It's just 1 minute here. All right, Mickey and Deborah, there's Deborah, thank you. Deborah, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. The staff report, of course, is wonderfully done by Cleve, but I just want to add a little bit onto the staff report outside of that. The Placerville Economic Advisory Committee was formed in 2012, so we're actually in our 10th year. And the committee developed the economic strategy in 2013. And last year, we felt an update was needed as goals and strategies had either changed or had already been accomplished. And the committee decided to review and update the strategy and goals by the end of 2021. And so we're super excited we hit that goal. Through this exercise, we identified new strategies and goals by retiring completed strategies and goals, or those that did not fit in anymore. Some were simply corrected with timing, and we also refreshed some original strategies. Some successes that we have, first of all, we're super excited about the new hotel. We did recommend a feasibility study, and the resulting interest in the hotel and also its piqued interest in the industry. We also have the potential for broadband in the city. So we're asking for adoption of the updates for the strategic plan. And I didn't know if Mickey wanted to add anything or not. Oh, you're muted, Mickey.
I'm Mickey Kaiserman here. I've been on Peak since 2016, and we've gone over these strategies for years, and some of them worked and some of them were not doable. We spent, I think, Deborah, I think we spent like 4 or 5 months reviewing these strategies at each meeting. And finally, we adopted and came up with a new list and revised the strategies. And I'm hoping that you all support what we're doing and we go ahead with it. And Deborah mentioned the last one that we worked on, which was the broadband. And that was a really important one. And we helped move that along as well. So we're all looking for your support. If you have, and any other economic issues that come up, Peak is always willing to look into them. Anything that the city says, city council says, hey, we need some Peak advice on this, we're happy to look into it and do the best we can.
So does anyone have any questions that we can try to answer for you?
I do, Madam Mayor. Okay. There's quite a few different goals or strategies and goals and points that require a lot of city staff time. And this is, you know, I read over these things, and these things that I've seen, I've been doing this downtown thing and city thing. You know, Patty has been doing the council thing a long time. I've been just sitting on the sidelines and working in the city on the downtown side for quite a few years. And I've seen a lot of these types of things talked about over the years. And one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me is almost every one of these things, the responsibility landed on either staff or Pekin staff. And I'm concerned that this strategy incorporates a lot of staff time. And I don't know if was that a consideration when you were looking at all of, I mean, because you have a lot of different things packed in here. And it's very, I don't want to use the word, I guess the word lofty, but there's a lot of lofty goals in here. And it seems like a lot of things we want to see the city move in the direction of. And how would you proceed with these, considering the constraints on staffing and timing? Because that's something that we've talked about quite a bit on the council level, is the impact of all the different decisions we make as a council on staff time.
I'll answer that. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking to both Cleve and Pierre, who are at our meetings all the time, about how much time it would take. And we set the dates when things would be done based on their input. So it wasn't us saying, hey, we need to do this. They had their input into helping us achieve, come up with these strategies, and saying they thought they could do it in a timely basis. Okay. So it wasn't like, hey, we need to get this done and this is what you got to do, staff. We know their constraints and we know what they have to do. So
it's a collaborative effort. I mean, we work together. We need their help as well as they need our help. And so I feel it's collaborative. I feel like they would say this is beyond something that we want to attempt. Hopefully we would have that information from Cleve and Pierre letting us know that it's over the scope of staff or what they can do. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. I still have a big concern. I need to express my concern about the impact on staff. I hear what you're saying, and it's still a concern of mine. And you know what my mind when I was starting to read this is, can we focus in on a couple of these, get a few done instead of trying to do so many at one time? That's kind of where my mind's going.
Well,
as I start to look at this.
It's actually a working model. It's not something that is cast in stone, and it is changing, and it is it's a work in progress. So
yeah. I don't want to diminish the effort and the time and energy that you all have put in over the years to initially develop this, to bring it to fruition, the work you've done along the way, and then to reevaluate this and determine those. And I'm taking all that into consideration too with my comments. Because I truly appreciate, I mean, you guys are all volunteers and there's so many people that volunteer in the city. And so I don't want to diminish that as well, because I think the value you guys have brought to our community is important and meaningful.
Thank you.
Just to respond to your point, Dennis, I share your concern with staff time. I do think that it's important to still lay out the strategic goals that we want to have. And then, you know, if we need to prioritize or if dates get pushed back, that's one thing. But I think identifying the directions that we want to go to with the feedback of our, you know, volunteer business leaders in the community, I think it's important to identify the strategies and then, you know, be flexible on when they're implemented based on the realities on the ground. So. Patty, did I see?
Yeah, I have a question. I know that the folks that you meet once a month, and I'm wondering, obviously once a month isn't enough to get things done. Do you make appointments to the separate folks to explore, you know, different pathways of what you're looking into or what? And then my second observation is, I'm wondering if maybe the council could maybe understand a little bit more of what's going on, and if, you know, make perhaps some recommendations of something. If you could have like a representative or to come to our meetings once in a while and give us a report, if that would work, because I feel like there's a big gap. We hear about you, but yet we don't seem to ever get together. You know what I'm trying to say? And I know it's not my business to go to your meetings, you know, to say anything. So I'm just thinking that maybe we need a little bit more coordination with you folks.
Sure.
I'll say, Patty, we have subcommittees that attack different aspects of the strategies, and they meet on a more regular basis than the once a month if there's something going on. And then we always invite every city council member to come, because you would have gotten an in-depth view of the hotel property if you would have attended our meeting. And they went through the room structure and how the rooms are designed. And we asked lots of questions at that point. But if you want us to report, there's also, when we go back to doing business outreach and visiting local businesses, we write up a report, and the city writes up a response to issues that come up. And I don't know if you get those or not, but they're really informative of what's going on in the city. And that might be something you should get copies of. Or we could maybe come to a meeting and report every once in a while what we're doing. That's up to you.
I'm thinking of, like, for instance, Fire Safe Council, you know, that we kind of keep abreast of what they're doing. And it's really helpful, I think, to the whole council to, you know, to hear those reports, and if they have any questions, to be able to talk with somebody or concerns, you know, then you got, you know, I've been thinking about that, and so just a suggestion.
Absolutely. We would love to collaborate more with the city council. You know, we're an advisory committee. We're here to help you.
Right.
Any other questions for Peak? All right. Thank you very much for being here tonight and for all your hard work on this. Cleve, do you want to take it over and go over the staff report at this time?
Well, they pretty much covered it. I wasn't going to go anything really further on this. A couple of things that I would just mention. If you look at the two reports, unfortunately, the way this happened, I didn't get a good chance to show you all the changes that are here. So you kind of have to compare the previous report from 2012 or 2013 with the current one. The main thing that I would mention that's the biggest change is probably the elimination of goal 12.6 from the old, or excuse me, goal number 6 from the previous report, and that was regarding health and wellness. We had not accomplished anything on that goal, I think is part of the reason we kind of felt, is this really something we can take on? I'll also state that the county has had some pretty significant efforts in this area. They did some surveys, a significant survey through their Health and Human Services regarding the types of medical services, additional services that could be offered, and et cetera. So that was kind of my thought why that was the committee felt that was important that we could pull that one from. And then again, as you've all mentioned, there's some pretty lofty goals and some big things on here. Enabling us to focus on some of the other goals was important to them also. So with that, again, I can answer questions. I do feel that Pete, I feel that my discussions with them, I get a lot out of it. And that discussion that I get back from them and that input that they provide to me helps kind of see, it's another way of kind of weighing the community and seeing how the community feels about different things that go on. And they are all part of our community. I just want to mention quickly, Deborah Miller is our only founding member of PEAK. She's been on there since the beginning for 10 years. And I really appreciate her leadership and the guidance that she's given the committee over the years. There was one more thing I was going to mention and relate. Oh, the last thing I want to mention, absolutely, I would say I'm as concerned as anybody about staff time and how we can meet those needs and all the needs that we have in the city and still fulfill some function here with PEAK. I don't know if Deborah and Mickey have gone over our agenda very closely for this coming Friday, but one of the items I have on there is for us to look at the new strategy that hopefully is adopted tonight, prioritize those items, and then I'm asking them to, as we look at those priorities, maybe 3 or 4 that we want to begin with, have a PEAK member, so one of the committee members actually take a leadership role on that goal and working with staff. So hopefully they can take some of that burden off staff. I have to admit, most of them are working also. They have busy lives, and so I'm respectful of that too. But in that case, when we can, have them take on a role of leadership for specific goals going forward, similar to what we've done with our committees for 3 specific areas that we've looked at in the past. So that will be a discussion on our meeting this Friday, and I'm excited for that to get to that point and have them move forward. So.
I have one more real quick question, Kara. How closely do you work with the Chamber of Commerce? And I'm thinking specifically at the economic part of it, because it's just like, we just granted money to the chamber to promote Placerville. And I'm just wondering how connected you folks are with the chamber and what they're doing for the city.
Is that a question for us or you said?
For you, yeah, for somebody in your group.
Why don't I first answer that, and Deborah and Mickey, you can add in here. As you know, the council approved a marketing program with the chamber. We have been in touch with the chamber. They've made a presentation on the success of that. It was preliminary because early on it was just this last month in January, I believe, or was it December that they did that? Anyway, recently they made that, and the chamber is committed to coming back to make more presentations to us. Also, Adam Anderson, who is an officer at the chamber, is the chamber's appointment to the committee and reports back to us also.
Great.
Okay.
All right, thank you. At this time, let's open it up to public comment on item 12.3.
Public comment is now open for item 12.2, the adoption of the city's updated economic strategic plan. Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe how few people are listening to this meeting tonight. Anyway, I have some questions. Who helped develop the plan? Was it all done by the committee? Was there any outside help? I love the vision and mission statement in this plan. It really reflects, I think, beautifully on our committee, on our community. And that's one of the reasons I was saying that I thought that the council should involve the community in creating the vision and mission statement for the city's strategic plan. Anyway, the committee meets once a month on a Friday at noon. That's been that way for 10 years. That is not good for the community to participate in. So I wish that they had more meetings at a time when more members of the community could join in. I so appreciate their time and what they have accomplished for the city. Anyway, I want to thank them. And I understand about the impact on staff, and there's so many balls in the air and they have to be juggled and things have to be evened out for all of the needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
John, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Greetings all. To answer, I guess I can respond to Kathy's question because I was there at the beginning. And basically what we did was we had an idea that we wanted to put an economic plan together. Other cities had already done it. So we basically got a whole bunch of them together and we sort of picked and choose from the information that was there. There were no wheel was reinvented in doing this. And of course, all our meetings are public. You know, Kathy does point out that it is, you know, it's been at noon on Friday, you know, so we don't get a lot of people there, but we do get people that do show up. I mean, it's like anything else. If it's important, it gets people there. And lots of times these planning documents, even though it might on the face of it, it looks like it's something like, well, you know, everybody will be interested in this. And it's like, yeah, you know, the making of it is less interesting than the actual implementation of it. And I think that when we actually get to implementing some of it, which we already have, by the way, you'll get more interest in what we're doing. And that's kind of the nature of these things. I think that the issue of staff time is very important. It's something as was mentioned by my brethren, this is something we keep in our mind in the forefront at all time. And we do have a group of people that are willing to work, you know, Tony and Mickey and I, you know, we worked on those the questionnaires and did quite a bit of our own work and then kind of, you know, the city executed it, but we met and we did that. And so we're willing to work. And this Friday is going to be very interesting. I just want to say, I did chat with the former mayor about this particular thing. And it's funny, you know, you read these things and read them and it's kind of, yeah, you know, you see it and it's done. And he actually got me to go back and look through it. And I went, wow, yeah, there's some really interesting things in there. And I started highlighting some stuff because I think there's some things in there that can trigger questions that could actually initiate some very interesting discussions in this community. And actually, maybe even going back to the city council and asking some questions. I think and it sounds like we're all on the same page in terms of the committee itself. We're going to pick out a few things that we think are really important that are doable, and we're going to go do them. And we just don't know what those things are yet. I mean, I have some ideas in my head, but you know, that's what the group is for. And we're good. Whoa, there's that bell again. I'm kind of looking forward to this meeting on Friday because I looked at the report with kind of fresh eyes and it got me thinking about a few things. So anyway, that's it. That's how a bill becomes a law. So there you go. And thank you very much. And thank you to the two representatives from the Peak there. They have done yeoman's work on all of this stuff. So good for all of us. Thank you.
Last call for public comment on item 12.2. Kirk Smith, go ahead.
Good evening. I too can answer the question raised by Kathy Lishman because I too was there at that first meeting. There's no amplification system there. There were no recordings, but I remember very vividly there was one person who did much of the talking and specifically set up the proposal for the time to meet because it would discourage people from the public for going. You're there's no record of that because, again, it wasn't recorded. And the person was speaking very softly, so those in the audience were less likely to hear, but I could hear it clearly, as did others who were there. That didn't leave a great taste, so I wasn't enthused about coming back to future meetings. But I do endorse the comments that were made by Kathy Lichman, that there should be more participation, and finding a different time would certainly help to encourage that. Secondly, when it comes to surveys, the surveys are not that reliable because it's not a scientific sampling. You did one not long ago regarding businesses on Main Street, the kind of businesses that would be permitted. And if you'd gone to do a sampling where you went to every 10th business, you might have been able to come up with something that represented what businesses want. There's all kinds of reasons why people don't answer survey questions. One, because they're busy, they didn't see it, all kinds of reasons. One, because they didn't think it'd be taken seriously, they would be paid attention to. So in the future, instead of relying so much on surveys, do some actual polling. It's not that hard to do. So those are the comments that I'd suggest, because there should be more participation and an opportunity for more participation with peak.
Thank you, Kirk.
Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening, City Council. My comments would be just, I think this is something that you need to do as a city. You have to figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. And I was really glad to see that they're looking at the underutilized and empty buildings and taking some inventory and trying to figure out what would be good to do with those, because we certainly have a lot of them. And they do, to have them be unoccupied leaves the city looking like a ghost town. And so we need to make sure that we do have occupancy and people doing things in these buildings that are appropriate to the city. So I think this is a good idea. I'm not going to be there at Friday at noon, but that's not important. What's important is that you guys are, and that you're trying to figure out some ways to move the city forward. So thank you. Thank you for your time and your efforts. That's all.
Thank you, Sue.
Call in user 1, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Yeah, I can be a second witness to that first peak meeting where they set their future meeting dates. And one of the members said, when asked from the public, why are you going to meet at noon? The public won't be able to come much. And that person said, exactly. So I'm a witness to that too. Read through the plan. I don't really have a problem with it. My problem would probably come with specific implementations, but I imagine those are going to come forward down the road. One of the things that I don't know if they would study or make a recommendation of is, I think it's city ordinance that, like, when a business goes out of business, then they have to take their store sign down. But I'm kind of the mind, like when I drive past the Upper Broadway giant building, seeing all those empty signs just shows more blight. So I don't know if the city can consider an ordinance to change that, where they would allow that signed copy of a defunct store to stay. Just because driving down the road, at least, it kind of looks like there's occupation. You might drive up to the store and realize it's empty, but driving down the street, visitors and all that, there's something to consider. Maybe have to change a city ordinance. Thank you.
Michael?
No further public comments, Madam Mayor.
All right, we will bring it back to council for discussion or a motion. Yes, Jackie.
I wanted to thank Pete for all the work. Putting together a strategic plan is never a small task, so wanted to thank you for that. to echo my fellow council members, I was concerned on how much staff time I saw, so just be really diligent of that moving forward, especially Pierre. We need him doing a lot of things. One comment specific to the plan, I was looking at 2.3, support local entities in an effort to preserve and promote Placerville history. I wanted to put a period right after that. You list some entities, but then there are other entities like Save Our Grave and other groups that are doing a lot of good work too. So I didn't want to make sure it sounds like we're limiting it to just a couple groups and forgetting other groups, just general with that. And yeah, thanks for all you're doing.
Yes, Patty.
Well, there's been a lot of comments on their meeting time. Is there any consideration of trying to change it and so that more folks can attend? If that, if the time is the problem.
I can speak up to that, and Mickey and Deborah, you can speak to that too if you'd like. I'm not opposed to changing the meeting time. The challenge that I would put out to you and the public is, does that really create more public input? I would use the example of the Recreation and Parks Commission. Mr. Zeller is on here. I think if you would ask him how many people attend his Recreation and Parks Commission, which is at 6 o'clock in the evening, I think he would tell you that there are very few, if any, that ever attend, unless they have some huge issue, which when we have a huge issue on peak, we've found that we do get turnouts from our business owners. Again, I'm not opposed to doing that. I am respectful of all of these people that are on peak are pretty much anyway business owners and have their businesses to run or work that they're doing. And I want to be respectful of that. When we established this, the thought was this is a lunch hour when hopefully these people can break for a lunch hour. We actually go about an hour and a half. We don't keep it to an hour. When hopefully they can take that time one day a month to be away from their business, from their work, et cetera, to do this. So I'm not opposed to it. I think peak members, I will disagree with the comment that we did that to discourage people from coming. I don't remember who said that or if they said it, but if they did, I would guarantee you it was tongue in cheek when they said it. We welcome any comments. We want public input at our meetings. And if I was convinced that moving the meeting to an evening meeting, which is I think what is being asked, would create more public input, I think I'm supportive of that. And I think probably our peak members would be also, but I would encourage you to ask our committee members about that, their thoughts on it also.
And I remember I remember exactly just what you just said, why they said it at noon on Friday. It was so the business owners, they give them a chance to come on their lunch hour. But if it's backfiring and that other folks that are interested besides business owners, I don't know. Maybe do a poll.
Just to kind of respond to that, this is an advisory committee. It's a working group. They don't enact policy. Anything that comes out of this working group comes before the council, which is an evening meeting. So I'm open if Peak wanted to change the meeting time to make it more accessible to the public. I would encourage that change. I'm kind of with Cleve that I'm not sure if that would actually result in more public participation. And I think that what's important is that we have these volunteers that are willing to put this work in on behalf of advising the council, and then anything that comes out of it comes before the public when it's in a council meeting.
Yeah, I'll just echo it. I mean, I was on Historical Advisory Committee and Planning Commission, and Jackie obviously was long-term chair at Parks and Rec, and unless there was a really hot button issue, we'd get 0 people, or maybe at least for Planning Commission. At Historical Advisory, we got almost nobody. And then at Planning Commission, we got the applicant if we had somebody that actually had an item before the Planning Commission. But otherwise, whether it was, and those were all evening meetings on both of those commissions. And we didn't get a lot of folks. So I think whether it's 6 at night, lunch or 8 in the morning. It's all going to depend on what the issue is and if people want to actually come in and take part in those. So just my observation from sitting on other committees besides city council.
Well, look at our meetings. It's the same thing.
This is true, Patty.
Oh, and honestly, when you think about your committees, many of them, you have 5 citizens, 5 different citizens sitting on each of those committees. So even though you think you're not getting public input, you're through those committees that are, our residents and our citizens and our businesses, you are getting feedback maybe that we're not acknowledging too, because you're right. Unless there's a hot topic, I sat through 9 years of, if we got 4 people, we were excited. I mean, it's just, unless there's a really controversial item, people, they trust us a lot of times. I think trust us to do the job we're doing, and we're involved, and that's what all the citizen committees are about, having citizens involved and oversight in everything we're doing.
I'll just say a comment. I sit on a bunch of committees. I'm on Measure H&L. No one shows up at our meetings. I'm on the fire board, and I'm on the finance committee of the fire board. No one shows up at those meetings unless they have a problem. No one shows up at the fire board meetings unless it's an insurance issue or they think the fire station can help them get lower insurance. But basically, unless if somebody really cares, and they can't get there, they'll send a written comment. So I don't think it's the time as an issue of the day. It's more important of what the issue is. And if somebody has something to say, they'll write something or they'll show up. So I think 12 noon, I never heard anybody say no one's going to come at lunch. Since I've been there, I've never heard that comment. It makes no sense because we always open it. It's really an informal kind of meeting. We let people, we don't really hold people to 3 minutes. We let them talk if it's relevant and try to flesh out issues. So if somebody has something to say, come to Peak. We'll listen to you, especially if it's on topic.
Do they bring their lunches?
They do. They bring their dogs. They bring their lunch.
I am appreciating this discussion on public participation, but I do think that we need to bring it back to the agenda item, which is the strategic plan. Peak members are here, so they've taken notice of the comments that were commented about public participation, and they can take that up at one of their meetings. Yes, Pierre?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if I may, and again, on the same topic, I would agree that that statement was tongue-in-cheek. I can recall when I first came on board, there was discussion with the Peak membership about possibly changing the meeting date and time. But that meeting date and time, I came to become aware, was specifically for the benefit of the members of the Peak. They're business people. And as you stated, Madam Mayor, this is a working group. It's different than the Planning Commission, definitely different from the council, different from the Parks and Recreation Commission. These commissions make decisions, and so those are provided to be more open to the public. This is a working group, so the meeting date and the date and time is set by the Peak for their benefit. Since they're business people, they work, they have jobs, and they are a working committee. And so it was discussed, maybe Mr. Morris remembers, I'm thinking 2014, 2015, quite some time ago. We looked at changing the date and the time, and the Peak decided to keep it on Friday at noon.
All right, thank you, Pierre. Any further discussion on the strategic plan? Dennis, I can see you want to say something. And you're muted.
I know. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like we're gonna put a bow on this, I think. I'm not sure how to defer to Peak or Cleve or the council or bring it back but what I'm looking for is maybe some laser focused on a few items that you have broadband, you have maybe determining I could go through here and kind of start doing this, and I don't think that's what we want to do tonight. But personally, I want to see maybe a focus on a few parts of this rather than having so many timestamps that are coming through, and I guess they're more of a suggestion than they are of a requirement. And I see Deborah shaking her head, so I'll go along with that. And I just wanted, it's important to me. It's been really important to me to make sure that these guys aren't working till 7 or 8 at night to get these things done, and that we don't put too much on their plates. And so I'm going to defer, I guess, I would defer to Cleve to kind of set some guardrails there. Although anytime staff is asked to do things, they do it and they don't complain. And that's one of the complaints I have about staff is they don't complain enough sometimes about the workload they get. So I caution if we want to get, I think it'd be nice to hear back from Peak about maybe a refocus of some of the items within here, defer some things, focus on a few others, and that's kind of where I'm at with this.
You can absolutely do that if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I would say send it back to Peak for some consideration on that, because all of these are important. Let's kind of, we're kind of trying to do a little bit of everything. Let's do a couple of them, and that's where I'm at. And I don't want to sit here and try and figure that out. I think you guys have done a great job of laying it out. Yes.
Can we adopt the strategic plan, but then Pete can still go back and prioritize and work on the timing and all that? I hate to keep bringing things back unless we really need to.
I don't feel the need to, micromanage how they kind of approach the strategic plan, but I think that the recommendation to be realistic about what is feasible for staff and for yourselves too, is there, that recommendation.
I struggle with all the time. They say they're recommendations, but when I read this, I didn't look at it as recommendations. I looked at it as goals that they are working hard to achieve. And I agree. If you got to set lofty goals, you got to reach for the stars, but sometimes we got to manage our time too. And so that's it. That stuck with me the whole time going through this. And I spent some time talking to Mr. Clarici about this, and it's still stuck in my mind. So it's important to me. Now we don't have to put that into a motion, but at the same time, I'd like me personally, I would like to see something in that along those lines. So whether they take that back as a suggestion or whatever.
Yeah, I think we can give that as a suggestion. We have a strategic plan. It's all not going to get done by next year. We're going to have to prioritize and work through that. And I think they're going to have to do that also. With that, I'll make a motion to adopt the economic strategic plan as recommended, and go ahead and have Pete take, kind of our suggestions of, where our heads are at to help guide them through that as they move forward.
I'll second.
Just for clarification, did you want to add that change to 2.3?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So we're going to put a period after Placerville history.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay. And Michael, your second still stands?
Includes that, yes.
Okay. All right. So we have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to the Peak members that are here and to the Peak members that are not here for all their hard work on that item. And that brings us to 12.3. Review recommendations from Peak again, also regarding changes to the zoning code for formula business. And Ms. Morris, you have this report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This was on your agenda at your last meeting, and you deferred that to tonight's meeting. As you know, this went to the Placerville Economic Advisory Committee, and at that meeting, the Economic Advisory Committee proceeded to perform a survey. They sent a survey by mail to property owners, and they hand delivered the survey to business owners on Main Street. With that, they got the results back. The results are attached to what you have. The comment that Peak made was that they were concerned that of the business owners, I believe was around 100 that they mailed out to, only 10 responded. So they were concerned that that information wasn't complete. There was also some discussion about whether or not there should be more input from the general community also, rather than just the business community. So with that, their recommendation was to provide this information to the city council without a recommendation other than asking the council if they could be given more time to work on gathering additional information, perhaps resurveying business or property owners to see if they could get more information, and potentially even do a more general survey of the community that would allow additional input from the community also. So that's basically all their recommendation is at this time. There was no recommendation regarding whether or not we do anything with formula business and amending the code to address that. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, council, if you have any questions or comments on that.
Any questions for Cleve? I see none. I just have a comment to kind of open up this discussion, and then I'll open it up to public comment as well. So the options that we're being asked to consider is to direct staff to work with Peak to obtain more information. I think that we could spend a lot of time discussing the merits of amending the zoning code. But at this point, for the sake of time and just general discourse, we may want to put kind of some guardrails on the conversation to just debating if we want to give Peak more time to provide us with more information. And we could have the broader conversation about whether or not we want to make this change at a later date when we get that information. Okay, all right. So with that, let's go ahead and open it up to public comment for item 12.3.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Public comment is open for 12.3. Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought there would be much more discussion on this, and I thought you were going to go back to the business owners, and actually there's been no input from the community at large. What do we want our downtown to be? So I'm really sorry. I think if no one is commenting tonight, or very few people, I don't think you should make a decision, because I think there's a lot of reasons for looking at it and finding out what the community wants. It's a very complicated issue, and you can't just pass it off as not being complicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. When you talk formula businesses, I don't think we have a good definition of what we think a formula business is. A lot of our downtown businesses already have connections to larger suppliers. Do we want to call those a formula business? Do we want to call Placerville Hardware a formula business? Do we want to call Robinson's a formula business? I don't think so. And I think what we've gotten into here is a tangled web of people who see something and don't want it. And so we have what my mother used to call the againers, against everything. Don't do anything because I'm against it. But the problem for the Planning Commission is they can only respond to what people bring forward to them as a proposal. So when Kimbellix decided to close and sell, they only were, they weren't going to be there anymore. And I loved Kimbellix, but they're gone. And so someone needs to come into that blank business. And they did. But there was a big brouhaha about it. And the same thing happened with sourdough. And I think if that building sat empty and sourdough was were the people who came forward with a proposal to take over that business and run it. So we have to be really careful. Now, we don't want a McDonald's in the middle of Main Street. I can agree with that. But I think we need to have a little better definition of what we call a formula business. And because we also have the great and wonderful Home Depot, which is certainly a formula business. And while it's not on Main Street, it is a formula, and it did drive some people out of business in this county and in this community. So there's a problem here that's much more difficult to define. And until we have a really good definition of what we want to call a formula business, I think we need to back off of this one. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Sue.
Let's call for for public comment on item 12.3. We'll take call-in user 1. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So if you look at the survey that went out, it had, and they only had like 10 responses. It had the wrong mailing address for City Hall at the bottom. It called out 3101 Main Street instead of Center Street. So you might want to correct that if you want more responses. I know everyone uses email. And also the question was not written well in the survey. It said, do you support or not 5 stores with 5 or more stores in the CBD? It didn't differentiate between in the city, statewide, nationwide. It needs to be, the question needs to be written correctly. And I do think we need to go forward in what the city's definition of formula business is and have that public forum discussion. Do we change the city code, zoning, the general plan to make it very distinct going forward so you don't get tied up in lawsuits over what the meaning of is, and specifically spell out what we allow in what zone. And the sooner the better to get this corrected and set in stone is what the city needs to do. And I support putting in, at least in the Main Street district, excluding formula businesses of a business with 5 or more locations nationwide. They can go to other districts in the city and still open and thrive. But we want the eclectic mom and pop one-off shop to thrive in the downtown historic district. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kirk Smith, go ahead.
Good evening again. Back to repeat some more comments. At that first meeting, there must have been about a half a dozen persons, 6 or 8 in the audience. I don't know of anybody who thought the comment made about keeping it during the lunch hour to exclude the public as being tongue in cheek. There was no laughter, no smiles. I'm not a mind reader. Maybe those who thought it was meant to be humorous were correct. Who knows? Nobody in the audience thought that. So that's important to keep in mind, because this is not reflective of what the business community necessarily wants. This survey is like those things where Fox News asks the public, should we bomb Iran tomorrow with nuclear weapons? You know, it's not reliable. You could do a scientific sampling by just going to every 5th, 10th business, whatever it is, as long as it's random, it's going to be much more reliable than this. Secondly, in addition to all the things that's already been raised that are problematic about your survey, we don't have a definition of what's a formula business. If you don't define that more clearly, and there's multiple definitions you can come up with, it's not going to be particularly meaningful. lastly, what maybe last, you put in the cart before the horse. The primary thing is people want the downtown area preserved. There's ways to do that. I just don't know why you avoid it. Why not put it on the agenda and then vote it up or down, get rid of it? But instead of just kicking the can down and saying, well, we think it's important, historic preservation is important, well, put it up there and vote on it. Let us see what you really think, because that makes a lot more sense than trying to grapple with this broad concept of formula business. I'm disappointed that you still keep coming back to doing the same thing. Just please go back to ground zero and do what you've talked about before. Talk about having put on the calendar, having the down. Thank you.
You have 30 seconds left if you wanted to finish what you were saying.
Well, that's my 30 seconds. It's long overdue to look at that one issue that's been kicked around for a long time, talked about. This is a time to do it.
Okay, thank you, Kirk.
Nicole Gottberg, go ahead.
So I like data, and I certainly have no problem with giving Peak more time to see if they can get more survey responses from folks in a broader audience, including not only, business owners and property owners, but members of the public at large. I'm not sure it's going to change kind of these survey results and what you're going to see out of them, but I think it's, reasonable to look and see, who else wants to respond to this and give comment on it before moving it forward on any sort of decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
There are no other public comments at this time, Madam Mayor. Oh,
Okay.
There is one. Sorry. We have one from John Clarici. John, go ahead.
There, I was debating whether I wanted to say anything, but I know we made a bad survey. We're all idiots. However, in the survey, we actually did have some examples, because we do have examples of what some folks on Main Street don't want on Main Street because they sued two businesses. And in the survey, it says, for example, like the ones that were recent, I don't think we put recently litigated, for example, sourdough and therapy store. So we had some examples to point to. This idea that somehow this was unknowable and unthinkable and no one could figure this out. Well, maybe some people can't. But I think when we finally got pen to paper and wrote it all down, you could read through that and kind of figure out where we were going. I think if you want to talk to the community about this, fine. That's fine. I mean, yes, the more the merrier. However, at the end of the day, all of those other people, even the other businesses, this is my own feeling. And I'm not speaking for Peak. I know that got somebody really riled up last time. I am not speaking for Peak. This is me. Now, I'm a member of Peak and I did help with the survey, but I've always thought about this thing, and this is why this issue always kind of gets to speak to Mr. Smith, gets kicked down the road. You've got to get the property owners, because the prohibition isn't against the other business owners. It's not, unless they happen to own property, and it's not against the residents of Placerville. You are literally going to put a prohibition on what property owners can do with their property on Main Street. Now, some people may not think that's a big deal. I personally think it's a huge deal. And I think it's one of the reasons why every time either this or a historical district for Main Street has ever come up, it has not gotten very far. Because in my 40 years of living in this town, this thing has come up occasionally, and they always get everybody's interest when it finally comes real. Now, I think we can put together, I think we can redo the survey and track it in such a way that we can get some responses back. That's up to you folks. But this, I just wanted to talk to that one thing about the survey. We had some real examples, real litigation, real lawsuits, okay, real litigation, and those were our examples. So this idea that, well, if you read the survey, you wouldn't have known what was going on, I think it's not accurate. Maybe some people couldn't figure it out, but that's their issue. So anyway, but I do think you need to, at some point, you're going to talk to property owners. That's what's going to happen because they're the people you're going to be impacting. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day.
Madam Mayor, there are no other hands raised. Kathy, I do see yours is raised, but you've already had an opportunity to speak, so I apologize for that.
All right, let's bring it back to council for discussion. Yes, Dennis.
I'll go ahead and kick it off. So there's a reason why there's no McDonald's on Main Street. It's just not, I mean, that was the big scare. They went up and down Main Street, said, City Council wants to put McDonald's on Main Street. We have 20 years of is it an ordinance that is that what we call it? An ordinance about formula stores. And we have 20 years of what I would call success. And I think part of what we're looking at is a solution in search of a problem. We have had, I think our downtown is preserved quite well. I think it is preserved in a way that it is a working community and it reflects our community. If we stop doing, there's people that want to freeze our community. We like it the way it is right now. We don't want to change it. We don't want people to come in, or we only want people with 5 or less stores to come in the whole United States. I just don't see it. There's 2 lawsuits, both lawsuits. One was a CEQA lawsuit that never settled the CEQA question because they knew it wasn't a valid question. They settled on the color of some paint and some money. So either they were bought out or that's not what they were really going for. The CEQA lawsuit was they knew they couldn't win on that. So this whole idea that this is that we need to do this is I question it. It's just, we have from 20 years ago or 22 years ago now, or right about there, they did this, they put a lot of thought into it. And I've said this before at a previous meeting, they put a lot of thought into how they wanted to do this. Not that they wanted to restrict businesses, but they wanted the outward appearance to be such that it reflects our community. And I'm sorry, but I hear people talking about this that believe in our constitutional rights and personal property rights, and yet they're willing to apply these personal property rights to other people's property. And I don't, it has to be a pretty tall order for me to want to restrict somebody's property rights. Now it happens all the time, but I think it has to be a pretty tall order. This is a working town. It is preserved perfectly right where it's at, and we'll continue to preserve it on a year-to-year basis. I don't think preserving it we need to have a moment in time. And you know what? No matter what we do, if we don't lock it down to 5 or less stores, people are gonna nitpick and try and sue us anyway. I don't think if we don't if we don't crank this down like crazy, there's just 2 or 3 or 4 people in town that really are pushing this whole agenda. And is that enough? Really? There's not a lot of, obviously by the virtue of the attendance at this meeting, those people aren't even attending, most of them. I don't see them. They could be listening on a phone. There's one person on a phone listening. So, we talked about this with some of the other issues. People aren't showing up. If it's important, they would. Thank you.
Yes, Patty.
I agree. I agree. And I've lived in this town long enough, and I remember when McDonald's came over to Broadway, and there were a whole bunch of people wanted to stop it. They're going to ruin the whole town. Everybody was going to go broke, all the restaurants, just because McDonald's was coming to Broadway. And I don't think that's happened. And I've said it time and time again, the larger stores can't make it downtown. Number one, we have a traffic problem. So we're not going to have a drive-in restaurant succeed down there, or even we had Denny's, we had Leatherby's, we had Starbucks, we had some of the bigger formula stores. They moved out. they can't make it down in our little town. It's not built for those huge, you know, I don't think we ever have to worry about Taco Bell or anybody like that even coming in. And I agree with Dennis. I just think everything's working well. And, you know, businesses, well, competition is competition, and you can't tell a store to stay out just because you're afraid it's going to delve into your profits. But, you know, and I just like, I have a very small business complex and I monitor it. I'm not going to allow, you know, two businesses of that. That's what I do. Like I wouldn't allow two beauty parlors or two whatever. So I think it's up to the individual property owner. It's their, you know, it's their business, and they have a right to decide. So I think downtown is working well. It's certainly, you know, visible on weekends, especially. You can hardly get through our town. So somebody must love us.
All right, thank you, Patty. Any further comments? Yes, Jackie.
Yeah, although I guess I'm kind of in that camp too. I try to find out what is the real problem we're trying to solve, and how much time are we going to spend on solving that problem. I don't see that there's a real problem. I know there's a couple of people who are unhappy about, I don't like this store, I don't like that store. You know, if the community doesn't want those stores, they won't shop there and they won't succeed. You know, it's driven by that. I have people come up to me and say, oh my gosh, Jackie, don't let us have any more antique stores on Main Street. You know, everybody has their own opinion. We all would just love little small mom and pops that just all made it super successful, that have been there for 20 years. The truth is that reality isn't there either. And, you know, we can always define formula businesses. We can define fast food and go round and round and spend, you know, endless amount of time. And I'm not sure that we as a city are prioritizing our time correctly if that's what we're going to do. We do have limited staff time. We do have limited resources. And I personally don't think we should put any more time and effort into this one.
All right.
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, I agree with everything my colleagues have said here. I mean, I do agree. I do think we should have a historical district downtown. I think it's different than what we're talking about tonight in terms of the formula businesses. It's true. I mean, Patty laid it out just perfectly in terms of all of the formula businesses, restaurants that have come through, and none of them have made it. They've all left or moved to different parts of the town. And, you know, if you don't have a drive-through for a, you know, if you're a fast food, you're not going to come and plop down, you know, next to Robinson's or something else. It's just not, it's not going to make you the money that you need in order to be successful as a fast food franchise. I'm perfectly happy. I mean, I agree. We haven't, there hasn't been like a mechanism to ask just the residents of Placerville. I like to hear what they have to say. So whether that's an insert, and I know that's certainly not scientific, and it certainly doesn't give you everything, but it gives you a little bit, or, you know, a survey on the website, I'm fine with that. I do think, and I agree with Dennis, you know, I don't think there's a problem here, but I would like to hear what the, you know, more of the community writ large would have to say about it as well.
I would.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I would move that we discontinue working on changing the zoning code for formula businesses in the central business district, and that we accept our current zoning as sufficient, and we stop this wheels from turning on this.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first and second. I would like to make a comment on this. I was kind of leaning towards the direction that Michael was taking on this. I agree with my colleagues that downtown is functioning well. I agree that making a change to who businesses and property owners can sell their property to or lease their property to is no small change. And, you know, if this came before the council, I don't know if I would vote to make an amendment, but I do also believe that, you know, as much as possible, zoning ordinances should match the desires of a community. And we really have not had a chance to get that feedback from the community. So I would be in favor of doing a survey in the next bill, water bill that we had talked about. It's, I believe, a minimal amount of staff time required for that, and getting the feedback from property owners that Peak has offered. So that's where I stand on this. But I understand where everyone's coming from, and I think that it's I guess it's time to make a vote on this. So we have a first and a second.
But I'd like to comment on that, because I think that our community votes every day when they come downtown, and they participate in the economy downtown. Even when, you know, it's not peak season, our community is coming downtown and appreciating the businesses and the culture and what we're doing down there. And I can always go down there and see people I know and you know, have dinner or sit next to them and talk. Our community is voting, but with their feet in their wallets. I really think that they are supporting the way our community is, and these are the rules that have been in place for the last 20 years that have got us to where we're at today. So that's kind of, you know, and if we do another survey, if we do another survey, it won't be scientific. It'll be people, it'll be just, we're going to recreate what we just did, but just make it bigger with the same problems.
That's a valid point.
And unless you're a business owner and you're going through what our folks downtown are going through, Kara, you know, you had a business down there. It's difficult.
It is.
And this is where I'm having a problem with surveys, is asking people to dictate to those folks and tell them what to do when they haven't got a clue what it takes to run a business. And so, you know, there's a lot of factors to be considered. That's why I think it was important that the business owners answer those, and you saw how much interest was there. So,
and you know, kind of when we assigned this to Peak, the question was whether or not the businesses actually wanted to make a restriction on formula businesses, because before then we had heard that they did, but we weren't sure if that was how representative that was. I think that the Peak survey demonstrated that there was, you know, a strong desire. So then it's, what's the next step? Do we want to see what the broader community thinks about it, or do we want to just put a stop to it? So, and yes, Jackie.
I want to say something about that. I never thought that we were just going to ask the downtown businesses who they wanted as their neighbors and who they wanted as their competition. When we heard this item come before us, I forget the last time it came for us, we had a PDA member stand up and tell us, hey, we go across and decide who's going to carry what. I mean, they basically admitted to collusion, which is illegal. You know, I'm not going to support those sorts of things in our town at all.
Right, which is why, you know, the next step would be getting the rest of the information that we were looking for, which was kind of what the broader community thought. But okay, so we have a first and a second. Let's do it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Thomas, can I ask you to repeat your motion, please?
Oh dear. It is to discontinue the motion, discontinue any consideration of regarding changes to the zoning code for formula businesses, and we stop this process.
Actually, before we do the roll call, I just have a quick question for Pierre. Are you there, Pierre? When we were doing the ordinance for, you know, changing the definition of it, the last time we were considering conditional use permits for Airbnbs and short-term vacation rentals, we were talking about the work that it would take to redo an ordinance versus just changing a definition within an ordinance, and that it was much quicker to change a definition. Is that so? Along those lines, would it be a pretty quick change to just clarify the definition of a formula business without rewriting a whole ordinance?
I think it really depends on what the intention of the council is. The current ordinance requires, which, and just to give a little history, I think like I have in the past, the reason why the formula business was put in place was in anticipation of the change in zoning to the lower Main Street following the Highway 50 Ops project. So we rezoned some of those properties to Central Business District. There was a concern of having, you know, fast food and formula businesses take over some of the vacant lots or the undeveloped lots in that area. So the intention was to maintain the character of Main Street. And so what was put in place was the required, you know, first we defined what a formula business was, 5 or more, you know, that are owned. And I think we look nationwide. So dispense with that. We're not looking at the city or the state. We look at the whole United States. I don't think we look at the whole world though. So basically we were afraid that we would have these formula businesses come in where it's more than just a sign, it's the entire building that becomes a sign. McDonald's would be the one that's most famous of that. Their whole building, you see the building from a freeway, you can see it from quite a distance. You know what it is. You don't even have to see the sign. So to maintain that character, once they meet the definition of formula business, they go through a site plan review. So we're looking at the elevations of that business to make sure that it's not going to impact the character of downtown. And then we also require a conditional use permit. Conditional use permit allows the city then to look at how it operates. So for example, I think downtown is to be a pedestrian oriented type of development as opposed to Broadway that's more auto dependent, more auto oriented. So you're not going to see drive-throughs on Main Street, or the city would have the ability to say, no, you're not going to have a drive-through. We're pedestrian oriented. And I think it's working quite well. What I think is what really is the pressure on the council is not so much the formula business, how it looks, how it'll affect the character, but more of the business aspect of it. And that the desire is to have mom and pop businesses only. That's more of an economic decision, more of a business type of decision. So we can certainly fashion an ordinance to do that. Staff looked at a number of different cities, from Carmel that doesn't allow any formula business at all. More than one is a formula business in Carmel. Or you can look at certain districts in San Francisco where they have, it's either 10 or 15, I think in the North Beach area. I think the number is either 10 or 15 would constitute a formula business, kind of the same thing. But again, I think it's more of a constraint on businesses, and whether you think it's appropriate that the city impose that type of constraint so that we're only going to have the mom and pop type of businesses where they feel threatened by the bigger, the 800-pound gorilla that may put them out of business. So I hope that helps your thoughts and discussion.
Okay, so if we wanted to change the definition to say no, I mean, I realize that this may not be a necessary thing. This may be a solution in search of a problem, but just hypothetically speaking, would it be easier to change the definition of formula business to exclude, say, fast food or something like that instead of rewriting the whole ordinance?
I think when you're talking about fast food, it's more problematic. I think the term fast food, when some of the earlier speakers were saying the formula business isn't defined very well, I would disagree with that. I would think more of the disagreement is on what constitutes a formula business. Is sourdough a formula business? Is Timmy Brown bag then?
Fast food. Yeah,
fast food. You know, is that's a real issue of definition. So, but you can certainly, you know, move the levers on what constitutes a formula business. If you don't think 5 is a good number, maybe you lower it. Maybe 3 or more is a formula business subject to our ordinance, subject to a site plan review and a conditional use permit. You can do those kinds of changes. So I think some of those types of changes, if you want to make it a little bit more, you know, lower the bar and what would constitute a formula business, we can certainly do that. And that's not difficult to do.
Okay. All right. I think it's time now for a vote.
Okay. I hope I didn't confuse everybody more.
So it sounds like it would be hard to really make some changes to that definition without a lot of discussion and thought on it in terms of fast food. But other changes would be hypothetically easier.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about what's classically fast food, when you talk about your Taco Bells, your McDonald's, your Burger Kings, your Wimpy's, all those kinds of things we have, I think everybody knows what the fast food is.
Okay. All right. So we have a first and a second.
Councilmember Burley,
Aye.
Councilmember No,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Mayor Taylor,
No.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
All right.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. All right. And just so folks know, my objection is not in regards to the merit of whether or not to change the formula business, but just that I would have liked an opportunity for more feedback from the community. Okay, moving on to 12.4. Adopt a resolution approving an increase in the traffic impact mitigation fees equivalent to the change in the engineering new record construction cost index from January 2021 to December 2021, effective April 11th, 2022, as shown in attachment A to the resolution. And Ms. Neves, you have this report.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor and Vice Mayor Zaragoza and council members. So the proposed item before you this evening is actually to increase the traffic impact mitigation fees in accordance with Section 8-15-8 of the City Municipal Code. And for all intents and purposes, this is actually considered a routine annual item. Section 8-15-8 of the code includes the provision for the TIM fee program to be adjusted January 1 of each calendar year by a percentage equal to the inflation rate of construction costs for the prior year. This inflation rate is based upon the Engineering News Record Construction Costs Index. The most recent TIM fee inflationary adjustment was approved by City Council on March 9th of last year and accounted for approximately 2.07% rate of inflation at that time. As we've seen over the last year, there's been quite a bit of inflation related to construction costs. And the most recent adjustment increased by over 5% to yield 7.34% increase year over year. The proposed fees supporting that increase are summarized in the table on staff's report. Per staff's report, you may notice that the city's fees remain less than the county's fees consistently, save for minor commercial. The reason for this is that the county's program is primarily focused on rural residential projects, being the massive trip generators for traffic impact, whereas the city's program focuses on the density of the community, citing minor commercial as the biggest source for traffic and trip generation with the impact within the city of Placerville. Should council approve this item, the new fees will go into effect in 60 days, being in effect after the close of business on April 8th, 2022, and any further applications received after that time will be subject to the new TIM fees. Additionally, as you may recall, a TIM fee program update was approved as part of the 2016-2017 adopted CIP budget with the initial budget of about $135,000. Staff has actually prepared the request for draft proposals and will be releasing it next week. Staff's recommendations are summarized in the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions for Rebecca?
I do have one question. It's just a curiosity more than anything. I hate to do this, but when you talk about per fuel position, is that just one little hose that plugs in?
Yeah, basically. So the per fuel position is from destination to destination.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I think. Okay.
I didn't get that.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I think yeah, we're good.
So,
just curious.
So for a gas station, is it for the gas pump? So if there's four, if a gas station can accommodate 4 cars filling up at one time, they would be charged that times 4.
Yeah, it's kind of like a volume, what's the right word? Multiplier.
Okay. All right. Yes, Michael.
I had a question, just and it's a curiosity one as well. So would hotel be major? What is it? What would a hotel major commercial or what
It would be
that fall
major.
under?
Yeah, there's actually a little line item specifically for it in our fee schedule. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Patty.
So I'm wondering about the difference in the minor and major, and you were saying that the county focuses more on the major, and we.
So the irony of this question, Patty, is you actually had this question last year. So I watched the March 9th meeting last year,
Thank
and it
you.
was
It was
almost
my
the exact
question.
verbatim question. So yeah, so that was why we actually added in a little bit of more information in this year's staff report, but same question. So the county, because it's so rural and everything is so spread out, they see the major trip generators coming from rural residential, right? They're the ones that are actually making the distance and the travel. We don't have that issue here. What we have is we are the destination. We have the minor commercial that people are going to. The trip generator for us is not the residents going to the minor commercial. It's all the other folks that are coming in to town to go to the Home Depots, to go to the hotel or whatever. That's the trip generator. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think I asked this before, and I for some reason can't seem to get it in my head. But does this preclude maybe somebody choosing to build in the city or the county?
Well, I mean, I think that cost is a factor no matter where the project is. I'm sure it, comes as a consideration for sure. Now, does it preclude? I mean, that's, if they're wanting to get the benefit of having it here, what they have to pay for in a fee, they actually, I mean, I'm just kind of estimating, right? What they pay for here in a fee might actually yield a better outcome for them. For example, if you put a Home Depot out in the middle of nowhere, how much traffic are you going to get going by versus the guy that just went to Rayleigh's and said, oh, and you know what, I need this special light bulb. My wife really wanted this one light bulb, and Home Depot is the only one that carries it. So then they pop into Home Depot as well. So there is a benefit of having sort of that community density too. So it's kind of a consideration for their business model, but that's my take on it.
Okay.
Rebecca, with the new model, so we're doing a nexus study next year that's going to take into account kind of the new criteria of vehicle miles driven instead of vehicle trips, right?
Yeah, VMTs. Yeah, vehicle miles traveled. Yes.
How do you anticipate that affecting our price calculations?
By a lot? Yeah, it will. It's kind of one of those things that we've really struggled with because we've actually, that we have a model for everything going in the city. The other part of this too is that our model is we cannot function independently from the counties, right? Because the county's model is actually kind of getting the regional impact as far as what we're, and we also roll in SACOG's model, et cetera, too. But as far as the vehicle miles traveled, for us, the challenge has been figuring out where they originate from and then the final destination in order to even calculate those vehicle miles traveled. So we've been watching, part of the reason why we took so long to send it out is because we've been watching how other agencies have been dealing with this, specifically watching our brothers and sisters at the county and how they've kind of gone through the 10 feet program. It will be challenging. It will affect our pricing, and kind of as it shakes out, we'll see how it goes one way or another. And we're happy to come back and provide a report on that information later on.
Do you anticipate some classifications like single family versus major commercial prices or TIM fees increasing drastically or decreasing? Is there any hope of a decrease? or is it impossible to know at this point?
So the funny thing is, not funny, just because of the circumstance to which it came about, was our TIM fee program, we actually had higher fees for everything. And when we were going through the adoption process, that was actually right at the very beginning of the recession. And in order to continue to support development occurring, growth occurring that was already on its path forward, like the hotel and a few other projects that were already approved, what council did at that time was actually adopt a lower fee schedule than what was originally proposed by the TIM update. And, you know, where you get those numbers from are you have a TIM program set of approved projects, or, you know, fiscally constrained projects. And these are projects that you know, can not be used on existing roads. They are specifically to address traffic impact, capacity increasing, or route convergence, right? So you end up finding yourself in this situation where the prior program, as it is in its current adopted form, is already at a pretty low rate. And so I don't anticipate it going down, but I do know that we are taking a healthy look at the projects that are currently in the TIM program, because some of them, you know, now we've had some time to, you know, go by. Now we do see how the city, you know, its growth rate is actually growing, not as aggressive as that program assumed. It also, the projects that are in that program, some of them are very infeasible or may not be the best use of time and resources to support the goal of traffic impact mitigation. And then some other projects have actually kind of come to surface that would do a better job of supporting that. So those things are what gets considered when we start looking at and revamping our TIM program.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Rebecca?
So these fees, where do they, I mean, for the 7 people plus the one on the phone that are watching our, plus everybody else on the internet, so I don't want to discount them either. What's this money go towards? It's limited use, right? I mean, this pool of money, and this has always been a bit of a controversial issue, because you got school impact fees, you got TIM fees, you got fire fees, you have all sorts of things when you go to build. And so, you know, I've sat on a couple different boards where it's like, this money, you know, what are we doing with it? It's the people's money. It's the residents of this community.
Yeah, absolutely. So to, you know, as a recent example, we actually used TIM fee money on the Western Placerville interchange. And the reason why we could is because it's one of the projects that's identified in our current TIM program. So, you know, that's why you develop a TIM program based on an approved list of projects, because that's your goals. You know, we keep talking about strategic plans and everything else. The TIM fee program project list is our strategic approach to mitigating traffic in the city, and that those fees that get collected specifically go to that intent.
All right. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Follow-up question on that. Will that list, has that list for the next cycle, you know, after we do this Nexus study next year, has that list of projects already been developed, or will it come before the council?
It'll come before the council.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I'll open this up to public comment at this time for item 12.4.
Okay. Public comment is open for item 12.4. This is regarding the increase in the traffic impact mitigation fees. We'll start with Kathy Lishman. Go ahead.
Good evening. I thank you for doing this and upgrading it, because updating it all the time. I was on a committee that helped the county to develop its traffic impact fees. Excuse me, I have a cold, due to Measure Y. And anyway, I appreciate the city. For so long, the city was not doing this. And then I remember when the Boys and Girls Club was built, and the decision was made to wipe out all the traffic impact fees. Well, those impact fees would have to be made up somewhere else. And I think it's time for the city to really look at what impacts new development costs and to charge new development for those fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Call in user 1, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First thing, that giant obnoxious bell needs to be reduced, gotten rid of, and just a little beep beep. It is actually, I don't know if it's on purpose, but it really breaks somebody's concentration at 2.5 minutes when they have 3 minutes to speak. So get rid of it, please, and just a small little chirp or something. Anyway, so the way this works, state law requires every 10 years a nexus study, Parks and Rec, your TIM fees, all your impact fees. The city hasn't done this forever. I think you're 13 something years with not having a nexus study for your TIM fees. Anyone could apply to the city and say, I paid these fees, I want them returned. You saw the whole lawsuit with this, with the county. So you got to get off this and get your nexus study done. But I think the council needs to understand you build a project wish list, then you calculate what it costs, and then you divide that up, and that's what your TIM fee is. So if you want a higher TIM fee or a lower TIM fee, you really have to analyze your project list, because that is what's going to drive your desire for increased or reduced construction, right? So you have this giant wish list, you're going to have a giant TIM fee, and a lot of people aren't going to build in the city. So you really have to focus on it back at the CIP level. Rebecca can, say I'm wrong or whatever. I just wish you guys would understand. Anyway, do what you want to do.
All right, thank you.
We'll take last call for public comment on item 12.4. Sue Rodman, go ahead.
Good evening. It's getting a little late, but we do have to keep up with inflation. Inflation is a problem, but it's not going away. And when you go in to do construction, it applies. When your materials and everything goes up, you have to cover those costs. And so you have to raise the fees that cover those. So I think, and new development does need to pay its own way. It needs to pay its costs. So I think this is something that's a bitter pill, but I think we just have to bite it. So that's what I think. Bye.
Thank you, Sue.
There are no further public comments, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll bring it back for discussion. Council. Any other comments? I've got to say, I really, I don't like TIM fees. And I don't like raising them 7.3%. That just, on all of the commissions that I'm on and the different agencies, we are being tasked right now with responding to inflation. And I feel like by responding to inflation, we're contributing to inflation. But at the same time, just like, Sue Rodman said, we have things that we need to pay for at the city. And this is how we do it in California. Other states, they spread this out differently with how they collect property taxes. We kind of front load all of this cost on new development, and that's just the mechanism that these things get done. So we had one, calling user one, made some great points. First, I was noticing that bell was throwing people off, and perhaps we can—
It scared me.
perhaps we can look at maybe turning the volume down a little bit. But also, when we do develop the list of projects, I think that we really need to take a hard look at, are these projects directly related to increased traffic because of new development, or are they just projects that the city wants and can kind of be connected to traffic in a roundabout way? And it's my preference that we do what we can to keep those TIM fees low.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just for a moment, the other thing too to consider with the current TIM fee program is, yeah, there has been some time that's lapsed since the last update. And as such, the costs for those projects have gone up as well. We do have, we have identified in a preliminary first blush look at it here at a staff level that there are quite a few projects that we can pull out of the TIM fee program, and we are looking at doing that. What that does help with is offsetting the cost increase of the other projects too. So, you know, I mean, we are conservative in terms of how we want to develop these projects. And, you know, I mean, these estimates are generated based off of current rate, but then, you know, we have to go back through and look at the inflation, but the cost increases in the project and the program itself don't get updated like how this cost increase does. This cost increase basically is a direct mechanism for the city to not be in a position where we're essentially subsidizing traffic impact from new development.
Okay. So am I understanding you correctly that those changes that you just mentioned would be a future agenda item, or would it be part of this future Nexus study next year?
It'll be both. So before we finalize anything with the TIM fee program, we obviously would bring it back to council, you know, similar to how we do for lots of things. We request for direction on, you know, various projects and approaches and programs. So yeah, I mean, we would bring it back to council for review, consideration, or request for direction.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Yes, Michael.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve the TIM fees as presented to us. It's like anything, if you wait, it's gonna be even worse. And has anyone ever heard of construction costs lowering at any time that you've been alive? No. So, I mean, this is like anything else. I mean, when I was at State and Consumer Services Agency undersecretary, we had all the licensing boards under us. A lot of the licensing boards would put off their rate increases, and then all of a sudden you'd have like a 300% rate increase because they didn't do it for 8 years, and it doesn't help anybody. It just ends up whoever's the unlucky person at that time that ends up having to do it, as opposed to the incremental and really staying abreast of what the costs actually are. So, you know, I just an aside on the motion.
I just wanted to say, we saw that with our water issue, and, you know, it was a struggle. So, yeah, okay, I approve.
All right, we have a first and a second roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
All right. So moving on to item 12.5, this is adopt a resolution re-ratifying the proclamation of a state of emergency regarding our teleconference meetings. And Mr. Morris, go to staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Myself or our city attorney can handle this, but this is just repeating the action you took at your second meeting in January, or maybe it was the first meeting in February, I guess, to allow this to happen. This does not require you to hold virtual meetings. It simply allows for you to. And at one point I want to make, it also allows for all of your committees and commissions also to continue virtual meetings if they would like to. So this doesn't require us to do anything, but allows us to if the need is there. So with that, Mona, if you have anything to add to that, otherwise we'll answer any questions.
Just that the statewide indoor mask mandate had been extended to February 25th. And so it made sense to give the council the option to consider this.
It did?
Did you just say February 25th?
It was the 15th. Did it change today?
I'm sorry, the 15th. I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. And the council had previously adopted this at its January 11th meeting, and the resolutions are valid for 30 days unless extended. So because today is just before the 30-day expiration, we have the ability to renew it as opposed to readopting it in total.
Yes, Dennis.
If we renew this, does this mean if we have an in-person meeting, it has to be, what do we call it? Hybrid?
No.
Okay.
No, it does not require us to have, if we decide to go just live and not have virtual, we can do that. But it's a decision that you can make to say, you have three choices. You can do live meetings, you can do hybrid meetings, or you can do virtual meetings. You have the choice of all of those at that point.
Okay, but this is required if our commissions want to continue to meet via Zoom, it would be required of us to pass this.
That is correct. And to clarify a previous comment that I made, based on information that we received, and obviously it's subject to change, it's a very fluid situation. My understanding is that while the indoor mask mandate is set to expire on February 15th, and there's no immediate plans to extend it, I believe that there will continue to be an indoor mask mandate for unvaccinated folks. And so for them, it will continue. For vaccinated folks, it will not be required.
All right. Any other questions or comments before I open this up to public comment? Okay, let's go ahead and open this up to the public.
Public comment is now open for item 12.5 regarding the reauthorizing of teleconference meetings. Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak on this item. Call in user 1, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So in regards to, I might not speak exactly to this item, but I do enjoy being able to participate in the city council meetings and other city meetings by this teleconference electronic system. I worked late today. I rushed home. I was an hour late, but I fired up the meeting, called in, listened. I can participate. I can see where you're going. I can understand your arguments. And it's for me to have to rush home late, get cleaned up, come down physically to a building to participate, and then wait 3 hours to speak to an item is it's just not going to happen. So I think allowing going forward after the craziness, electronic participation is it's a beautiful system. You know, you've worked the bugs out. You know how it works, aside from the crazy loud bell. I would love you to consider going forward, even when people aren't, if you do the live meetings, still consider the hybrid system. I think you do get a greater level of public participation. And that's it. And hopefully this insanity is over very soon. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Are there any others that wish to speak on item 12.5? We'll take last call now. Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
I was thinking that this just gives you the option to decide kind of meeting by meeting, what's the best for conducting the city's business. So I love having Zoom meetings, but if they're in person, that's fine too.
Madam Mayor, I see no other public comments.
All right, we will bring it back to the council for discussion. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a first and a second. I would like to, and I support adopting this resolution so that our committees can continue to meet remotely if they so choose, and to give us flexibility going forward. But I look forward to being back in person, and based on you know, the curve that we're witnessing, it looks like we're currently at, you know, COVID levels of September where we were meeting in person. So, all right, we have a first and a second. Yes, Dennis.
Who's making the decision? I forgot. We went through this last time, and I don't know where we landed. But is it Cleve and the mayor? Is that where we land? Cleve and the mayor.
Yes.
Okay, because I literally did not read the resolution. My bad, but I just wanted to clarify that because I thought we were. Thank you. I think that's important. You guys can do a great job figuring that out.
All right, so we have a first and a second. Can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye.
Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
You know, and just to respond to the comments, we actually have not worked out all the kinks. We just today we got kicked out of our closed session about 3 times, and that's why the meeting started so late. And it's really, you know, if we could do a hybrid, that would be something that we could consider, but town hall is not wired and set up for that. We are looking at doing some improvements to town hall, hopefully this year, which will maybe improve our capacity to do those things. But right now it's really difficult to do a hybrid meeting, and it does, you know, it does make meetings harder to be on Zoom, and there are technical issues that come up often. So, but please feel free to come directly after work and don't feel like you have to get cleaned up for us. All right. All right. So moving on to item 12.6, cancel the regularly scheduled city council meeting on November 8th and schedule a special meeting in its place. And Ms. Morris.
Gina will handle this one.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you've read in your staff report, your November 8th meeting falls on election night, a night which you have held your meetings in the past before, and have oftentimes tried to wrap it up early so you can get home and watch the election results with your families. This year, 3 council member seats are up for re-election. In addition to your city council meeting being held on election night, the El Dorado County Elections Department wishes to use the town hall facility as an in-person voting center, which they have done in the past with great success. Town hall is an ideal, centrally located facility for use as a voting center. Should you decide to cancel your November 8th meeting and hold a special meeting in its place as recommended by staff, you could consider November 14th, 16th, or 17th, that's a Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, to hold the special meeting the following week. These dates are currently reserved for you, but we can explore other dates if necessary. The elections department would actually like to use the town hall facility from November 3rd through the 10th, which includes setup, in-person voting, breakdown, and cleanup. There's only one other conflicting event during this time, which is a Sunday church service on the 6th. Pending tonight's decision, if the November 8th meeting is canceled, the Director of Community Services will then reach out to the church to explore other arrangements for their service, freeing up town hall for use as a voting center. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Regina. Do we have any questions on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to the public.
All right, public comment is now open for item 12.6. We'll start with you, Sue Rodman. Go ahead.
Good evening, one more time. I think that it's important to have a place where people can vote, and town hall does work really well. So I would support this motion of go ahead and cancel one meeting. I mean, it's not going to kill anybody. So that's my opinion.
Call-in user 1, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I disagree with the long-term voting over multiple days. I believe everyone should just go and vote on one day, or as I believe we are a vote by mail state. So everyone can just vote and pop it in the mail. I really disagree with kicking a church out of their contract for a voting center. I think it should be city policy that the city does not hold a government meeting on election day, on actual election day, which what would happen once every 7 years. Other than that, just don't kick the church out for a voting day, please. Thank you. Oh, and save the big loud bell at 2.5 minutes, only for the former mayor. Everyone else gets a little beep beep. That's it.
Kathy Lichtman, go ahead, please.
It seems to me that the only reason that the city council meeting needs to be changed is because usually the election happens on the first Tuesday of November. But if the first Tuesday of November is the first of the month, then they go to the second Tuesday. So this is a very unusual situation. And Michael may have been right. It only happens once every 7 years. So it's a good thing to do.
Thank you, Kathy.
We'll take last call on item 12.6, cancellation of the November 8th meeting. I see no other public comments. Madam Mayor?
All right, thank you. And just to clarify, our action tonight has nothing to do with any churches. We're just talking about the city council meeting.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You're freeing up November 8th. I'm not sure if the county elections department will choose to use it as a voting center when they need several days to set it up, do the voting, and then break it down. So it really is dependent on a couple of things.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Dennis.
I have two things. One is I'd like to know I wish he would have said which former mayor he wanted to save the dinger for, because I think Kathy was.
I guess. I just John Clarici.
Oh, just John. Okay. I didn't say it. I was wanting to know because that's all. Second thing is
around here.
There is quite a few of us former mayors. I have a meeting on the 17th that is scheduled for November. So, and it goes in, and I don't know if it's going to be away or here. And it's Pioneer Community Energy Board meeting. And if they go to on location, so I would prefer the 16th if I can have a say in that.
All right.
Are we naming a replacement date tonight?
Do we need to, Cleve? Or can we just say that we're looking at this meeting?
It's not absolutely required. However, if you would like to do that, you can. The main purpose of this meeting tonight was to make sure that we can get back with the elections, because they need to schedule those voting centers well ahead of time. So that's the main purpose. I do want to mention, though, that I don't think we can just cancel the meeting. As you recall, we generally cancel our second meeting in November due to the Thanksgiving holiday. This actually, I think, works a little better, actually moving it to the following week. It makes it a little more centered between the last meeting in October and the first meeting in December. So that works. Again, if you have one of those dates you feel you would be open to, it sounds like either the Monday or the Wednesday, we can firm that up and take care of that. As Ms. O'Connor mentioned, we are holding those dates as far as other uses down at Town Hall right now. So that would free up the other date if you're willing to do that. So
All right. I'm fine with either of those days. The Wednesday works for me.
Same.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the cancellation of the November 8th meeting and reschedule that for Wednesday. What is that? The November 16th.
I'll second.
Right, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Councilmember No,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza,
Aye.
Mayor Taylor,
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. Where did I put that agenda? Oh no. All right, so that moves us on to item 13, council reports from other agencies and El Dorado County Transit Authority. Jackie, would you like to address this one?
Yeah. We approved our mid-year budget and we reviewed the strategic plan scope to give further direction.
All right, thank you. Next is the El Dorado County Transportation Commission. Dennis, would you like to address this?
I think I said everything I was going to say from it. I don't have my notes from the meeting. Patty, do you have anything on that?
I was not able to attend that
Oh,
meeting.
that's right. You weren't there.
We found, and I actually scribbled notes and then, oh, here they are. Okay. So we entered into a legal services agreement with Sloan Sakai. We designated Wendy Thomas as our rep at CalCog Governing Council.
Mm-hmm.
And we found the zoning variance that was requested and submitted by the city to be in compliance with the Placerville Airport land use compatibility plan, which was an interesting item. I didn't realize that we were also the Placerville Airport land use committee or
Yes.
board. So, and that was in regards to the hotel.
We literally had to approve the hotel or give it a waiver because it was too tall, even though it's lower than this 160-foot tree behind it.
Right.
The chimney was a couple feet over the maximum building height. It was found to be hundreds of feet below the flight of airplanes. So it was found a non-issue.
Those low skimmers, I don't know.
Luckily, our airport is up on a ridge versus like Cameron Park Airport, which is down in a bowl. And Woody was saying that even sheds down there need to have little beacons on their roof, 12-foot sheds. So we're lucky that that's not really an issue here. All right, LAFCO.
LAFCO, the open comment period is open for the fire MSR and we're still working on the recruitment for the EO.
Okay, how's that going?
Slow.
No,
we just approved the contractors to go out and start recruiting. So
okay,
all right, get someone.
SACOG.
Okay, so SACOG and Pioneer both meet next week. However, we did have for SACOG, we had, so I chair the Land Use and Natural Resource Committee. We had a discussion about regional trails and how we could have collaboratively work together on that, but our board meeting will be next week.
Okay. Fire Safe Council. Oh,
I think Mark gave the the report on everything that's going on.
All right, Pioneer. Going out of order a little bit, but
Yeah, Pioneer next week.
okay. The 2x2 will be meeting at the end of this month. And Opportunity Knox Continuum of Care, I think, is on the 25th, right, Michael?
I haven't received anything yet, but I'll
You haven't?
take your word for it.
Okay.
No.
I believe it's Friday, the 25th.
Okay.
This month, they've moved it to the 15th. I'll forward you some of the information.
Yep.
Oh, good, because the 25th would be really bad.
It's the 15th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they didn't have a quorum. It's usually the first Friday of the month and they couldn't get a quorum, so they moved it to the 15th. They're looking at releasing the strategic plan, which is finally out. I have, since you guys are on that committee, I'd just like to put forth, look at Placer counties homeless strategic plan. They interviewed the Board of Supervisors. They interviewed all the law enforcement agencies. Our agency has not done that. So I feel like it's hasn't quite finished all the work that needs to be done for that plan. But that draft is supposed to be released on the 15th.
Okay. And the next meeting where that's going to be released, this is a long anticipated strategic plan that we've all been waiting on. I think the whole community has been waiting on for years now. And that meeting is open to the public if anybody wants to attend it. So, all right. Request for future agenda items. Dennis, did you have one you wanted to add, or?
Mayor, if I could, please, we did have one hand raised on the last item. I don't know if you want
to. Oh, sure. I didn't see that.
Sorry.
Sure, we can take a public comment on that.
Kathy Lishman, go ahead.
Yes, it's me again, and I'm sure you're kind of tired of hearing from me, but I was just going to say that the council reports from other agency meetings are really important, and I would rather see them at the beginning of the meeting than the brief comments by council members of things that they've done through the week or the month or the 2 weeks. So it's just, I just think the public would be more interested in hearing the things from the other agencies you belong to. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
The deal on the taxpayers protection and government accountability. To consider a resolution in opposition to that initiative that's going through the state.
All right, all those in favor? I'm in favor of adding that to the next agenda. Any other future agenda items?
Just for the record, that was a unanimous decision by the committee to add that to the agenda.
Thank you. City manager and staff reports. We have the police report by Chief Wren. Are we just filing these, or?
That's up to you. If you want to report, we can do it. If not, we can receive and file.
Chief, do you want to highlight anything?
We continue to be busy. The men and women of the police department are out there doing the best they can. The last couple months was a little tough for us. We experienced some staffing issues due to illness, but it looks like we're back on track, and the team's motivated. We're trying to track trends. The only trend that we have specifically identified is narcotics related offenses, either the under the influence or the possession. So as a team, we're working on strategies to try to address that. Good news is regionally, and speaking to the other chiefs, we're doing a lot better than most cities are. And I attribute that directly to the participation of the members of the community and the fact that we got a very young, motivated police department that likes to get out there and do police work. So.
All right. When you say track trends, things trend up and things trend down, but it sounds like you're saying that narcotics are trending up.
It's been trending up for probably about the last 6 months. Last couple months, more significantly so. We've seen some unfortunately some deaths related to overdose and some hospitalizations related to overdose. So. And we've made some pretty significant street level narcotic arrests as well. So
do you have any insight into what's contributing to those upward trends? Do you think it's just kind of
very poor policy decisions out of the state in relation to Proposition 47, AB 109, Proposition 57? So, they consider somebody's choice to engage in a vice crime as an illness instead of a choice. So we're combating that right now.
An illness that we cannot compel them to seek treatment for.
Correct. We used to be able to until the law changed. They used to be given the opportunity to go into a diversion program. All of that has since been, it's just gone away. So there's nothing compelling people to want to break that cycle right now.
All right, thank you. Anything else? It looks like some other crimes are decreasing.
Yeah, we're, excuse me. Theft, most notably, our theft-related offenses. You know, you'll find that we'll see theft starting to trend up in an area, causing our numbers to get high, and then we'll make an arrest and find out that that person or that group of people were responsible for a large majority of those offenses. So once we put them on our radar and we keep a better eye on their activity throughout the community, there's a dip in that. You know, unfortunately, due to our limited resources, as we move on to other priorities within the community, eyes get taken off them, and you may see it. So there's just an ebb and flow to it. We're hoping to be aggressive. We've heard loud and clear the community wants us to address these theft-related offenses, the quality of life stuff. So we're really focusing our efforts on those activities.
All right, good to hear. My neighborhood's been hit twice in the last year. So, as I think you know. All right.
Just real quick, I'd like to say that unfortunately I've had reason to call to report things, and I really appreciated the quick response. It was great. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm proud of. We have an extremely fast response time. You know, a lot of times our priority one calls are around the 4-minute time frame. You know, more often than not, we're there a lot faster than that. So that's one of the benefits of having a municipal police department, living in a community, and you know, having that service available to you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, 15.2 is the fire report. And Chief Cordero, do you have anything that you would like to highlight?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just kind of similar to what you're experiencing with the police department, the fire and EMS continues to be quite busy. We've also had some staffing challenges. However, we have most of our employees back to work now, which is good. As you'll see in the report, Medic 25 continues to stay in that spot on the top of the list as far as the busiest medic units in the county. But overall, the system is continuing to uptick on the call volume.
All right, thank you. So that concludes staff reports. Upcoming items, we
Mayor,
have.
Can I just a verbal report, add one thing? Some of you have heard about this. We are doing a homeless camp cleanup on Lower Main Street on Saturday. I think we have plenty of volunteers. If someone wants to come out, you're welcome, but it sounds like we're going to have a good turnout from the information we've received, and hope to clean up that hillside, as you know, down on Lower Main Street. So just for your information.
All right, thank you, Cleve, and thanks for kind of coordinating that and taking that on, gathering all the volunteers for it. All right, item 16, upcoming agenda items. There's quite a long list, and I can let folks that are interested read through them, but we have engineering analyst positions. We have job positions opening at the city in our engineering and building departments. The Monument Garden recognition, Hangtown Creek Culvert, there's a lot of things coming up. So you can read through those if you're interested. And that brings us to item 17, which is to adjourn the meeting. And it's 8:54 right now. So, all right. Thank you, Pastor.